kick myself for trusting that damnable Minotaur. Little did I know that when the blue baby, or whatever his damn name was, led me to the nearest Dockland rogue, he had failed to mention that it was full of the truancy rangers. A quick bit of background on that. When gnomes, such as myself, departed without proper permission, we'll say, the truancy rangers were a group of aggressive negotiators that would come and persuade us delinquent gnomes to come home. That's how they liked wording it anyway. Point being, I was locked in the brig of a ship and headed back to face punishment. The greatest punishment is not finishing my book. Prison wasn't so bad, I guess. I was put in the minimum security area due to me not really being a threat. Just a mere nuisance. I could live with that. I just had to learn to live with the disappointment of my failure. That was going to be harder. I had spent a couple days in my cell. Occasionally I was let out to break rocks in the yard. Don't know why the prisoners had to do that. I guess it's to keep us busy. Sometimes we would go to the cafeteria for our meals, although I was allowed to eat in my cell. I wasn't much for socializing. However, I did make one friend. Her name was Welsis Pistonborn. She was the guard in charge of my block. I think that's what they call it. Anyway, she was a nice older woman. Not to be offensive, but she was too old to be a guard. I guess they figured non-threatening criminal, like myself, didn't need any intimidating guards to watch us. She would bring me food and we would have long conversations until she had to do her rounds with the other prisoners. I told her about my failed project. I was reluctant to tell, but she was surprisingly very interested. In fact, she had a tale of her own. I was reluctant to hear it at first due to hearing every gnomish tale there was, but this one surprised me. Apparently, her great-grandmother was the superb hero known as Brigadier Boomvroomburg.
It was a normal day in the city of Steam. At least, that's what the clocks said. They helped, since the city was in the middle of a mountain. Anyway, it was a normal day for the Steamers, even a little gnome girl named Petunia. Petunia was a young, gnomish girl who was the apple of her father's eye, exuding charm and beauty. She had long, beautiful brown hair that she usually had in a tasteful ponytail, and eyes of shining emerald. She was going to in her finest pink dress to the shop to buy some more supplies. Petunia's father, Colonel Rostat Pittenborn, was a decorated military man and one of the richest men in the city of Steam, so Petunia could buy all the supplies she wanted. Little did Petunia know that she had an audience of gnomish thugs watching her.
Come on, fellas. Let's see what little puppet's got.
Petunia made her way down a dark alley. She stopped as she heard something.
Huh?
Petunia looked around but saw nothing. She shrugged.
Must be a breeze.
Petunia continued walking until she heard the noise again. Petunia looked around again.
Hello?
Again, Petunia saw nothing. She was uneasy, but continued her journey until she heard the noise again. Petunia was getting annoyed.
All right. Enough is enough. I know someone is there. Come out.
The thugs stepped out of their hiding places, eyeing the young gnome girl with sinister smiles and malicious laughter. The gang's leader walked up to Petunia with a big, threatening smile on his face. Petunia couldn't but sneer as she saw the mouthful of yellow, cavity-ridden teeth in his mouth. His voice made her cringe even more.
Hello, puppet. Where you headed this fine evening?
Petunia sneered.
I was going to buy a few items. Not that that is any of your business.
The gang leader circled Petunia like a predator eyeing its prey.
Would you like some company?
Petunia gave the thug leader a smile, one that she clearly didn't mean.
I'm all right. But there is one thing you could help me with, actually.
Oh.
You see, I am also looking for a gang of nare-do-wells harassing young women in the area.
The gang leader was taken aback.
Is that right?
Petunia nodded with a very off-putting giggle.
Yes. It seems these boys lack
Petunia glanced down at the gang leader's crotch.
certain genetic gifts.
The gang leader covered his crotch with his hands as if that would protect him from judgment.
And thus they take it out on young women.
The gang leader stood uncomfortably.
I guess they can't face real warriors. Probably because they are not real men. Anyway.
Petunia suddenly gave the gang leader a serious look.
You wouldn't know where I could find them, would you, Nigel?
The gang leader, Nigel, stared at Petunia in horror.
I never told you my name.
Petunia feigned surprise.
Oh, you didn't.
Petunia shrugged.
I guess I can drop the pretense.
Before the gang leader, Nigel could do anything. He felt a sharp pain in his throat. He looked down to find that the little poppet had produced a dagger from seemingly nowhere and embedded it in his throat. Petunia brought her face inches from the dying Nigel's face.
I would ask what you learned, but, you did. So...
Petunia let go of the dagger and Nigel's body, letting it fall to the ground. Petunia looked to the other thugs who stared, jaws agape at their fallen leader. She smiled a most savage smile.
Who's next?
The thugs ran off in horror. Petunia snickered.
I love when men give me options.
Petunia tore off her dress, revealing a sleek suit of armor covered with many bandoliers full of daggers. She gave chase to the other thugs. Petunia stood over all the thugs who were dead now. She cleaned a dagger.
I wish you boys were more of a challenge.
Petunia sheathed the dagger. Petunia had to cancel her shopping plans due to the cleanup she had to do.
Ugh, I have to add self-cleaning to the next suit.
Petunia was in her laboratory, a cave off the property of her father's manor, where she built her outfits. Petunia was her father's daughter. She wanted to join the gnome military when she came of age. However, women could not join the military, not at this time anyway. Her father still taught her armed and unarmed combat so that the little lady could defend herself. Petunia appreciated the lessons, even though it came from a place of condescension. However, she had learned more extensive lessons elsewhere to her father's ignorance. She would sneak into the city, and with her feminine wiles would find tutors from all walks of life, from weaponsmiths to alchemists. She was an unofficial master of many, many arts. Petunia worked in her laboratory on her new outfit when she heard her name.
Madam Petunia!
I couldn't have been gone that long.
Alphys, the piston-born's butler, searched for Petunia. He knew that she would stay in her hidey hole on the premises. He could never find it due to being blind. He called out to her.
Madam Petunia, dinner's ready.
I'm here, Alphys.
Alphys clutches his chest as he calms down.
Madam Petunia, do not sneak up on an old blind man, please.
Petunia stifled a laugh, although she did feel bad.
Sorry, Elvis. That was cruel of me.
Alphys composed himself.
Anyway, dinner's ready. I hope you worked up an appetite working on your newest outfit.
Petunia told Alphys that she worked out outfits. However, she framed it as her sewing dresses. Alphys, much like her father, would be horrified by what she was really making. They would be more horrified to find out what she did in those outfits.
Yes, I sure did.
Ah, how I wish I retained my sight. I bet you look lovely in those dresses.
Petunia smiled.
Alphys, you still know how to charm a lady. Mwah.
Petunia placed a kiss on Alphys' cheek. Alphys touched his cheek and smiled.
All right. Let's get to you fed, young lady.
Petunia sat at a long table across from her father. The meal was a fine yak steak imported from England and paired with a Frankzenbeans wine. Petunia was not being on finery, but food was the one indulgence she allowed herself. Her father looked at her with a smile.
How was your day, my dear? Did you find everything you were looking for?
No, I was detained.
Rothscott looked concerned.
Detained?
Petunia had used the wrong word. She had to ease her father's mind, lest he become curious about her outings.
Um, eh, yes, I ran into some friends and we got to chatting. The day just got away from me. You know how us ladies are.
Right, that's good. I had heard word of a roving pack of scoundrels harassing young women. You know how I worry.
I know, father, but I can take care of myself.
My dear girl, I'm a parent. I will always worry about my daughter.
Petunia rolled her eyes.
No, father.
Petunia was back in her laboratory on her newest outfit. When she heard
Petunia!
Petunia sighed.
I'm never going to get this done.
Petunia left her hidey hole to find her friend Eliza wheeling around the property. I say wheeling because Eliza was confined to a wheelchair due to a vicious attack she suffered a year ago. The sight of the chair always made Petunia's heart hurt. She blamed herself for not accompanying her friend that day, leaving her alone to be attacked by the thugs. It was a big part of the reason that Petunia made her outfits. It was a big part of the reason that Petunia went on her outings. But Liza continued to look for Petunia.
Petunia? Petunia! Where are you?
Petunia revealed herself from her hiding space.
Eliza, I'm here.
Eliza's face lit up upon seeing Petunia.
Petunia! There you are.
Eliza suddenly looked suspicious.
What were you doing?
Petunia was surprised by the question.
I was gardening. Yeah.
Eliza gave Petunia a suspicious look.
When did you start gardening?
Petunia shrugged as she laughed nervously.
I have to occupy my time somehow. You know the men folk don't let us do anything.
True.
Petunia was relieved that her friend bought her story.
Anyway, I wanted to go to the shops and I needed a big, strong protector. Do you want to come with me?
Petunia really didn't want to go shopping. She didn't really enjoy woman activities that much.
I don't know. I have a lot to do. Can't you ask one of your brothers?
I said I wanted a big, strong protector.
All right. All right. I'll go with you. I could use a break anyway.
Petunia pushed Eliza's chair down the city street.
Where do you want to go first?
Eliza reverted to a child for a moment. She didn't go to the city that often.
Let's shop for clothes. No. Let's get a bite to eat. No. Let's get hats. No.
Let's make a decision.
Sorry. I haven't been out in a while.
The two girls laughed. Until
Hey,
a stranger bumped into Petunia as he rushed past her. It was hard to see the stranger, for he wore black robes with a black hood. Eliza yelped at the stranger.
Watch where you're going, sir.
The stranger turned to look at the two gnomish women, revealing it was a goblin man. He sneered at Eliza. Eliza gasped with indignation.
How dare you, sir?
The goblin ignored Eliza and kept walking. Eliza looked to her friend.
Can you believe how rude some people are?
However, Petunia was more focused on the goblin stranger.
yeah.
Petunia thought it was strange that a goblin was roaming through the city. Goblins were not barred from the city. However, they weren't exactly welcome either. Petunia was very suspicious. She wanted to follow the goblin, but she was Eliza's escort. She had to think of something. An idea came to her.
Say, Eliza, there's a new cafe I was hoping that we would investigate. I hear they have elvish pastries.
Eliza's eyes brightened with excitement.
What are we sitting round for? Let's go!
Petunia wheeled Eliza up to a table, and then tried to run off. Eliza caught her.
Where are you going?
Petunia stopped in her tracks.
I have to go.
Go where?
Petunia had to think fast. Petunia looked around and then leaned towards Eliza.
I have to use the washroom.
Eliza cringed and waved off Petunia.
All right, all right. Don't need the details. Just go.
Petunia smiled.
Thank you. I'll be back in a moment. Ta!
Petunia ran off. Petunia felt bad for abandoning her friend, but that goblin made her feel uneasy. Petunia searched through the city for the goblin,
Where could he have gone?
and then she saw him. The goblin was weaving through the crowd. Petunia shadowed the goblin through the crowd. Petunia followed the goblin onto an alley. She hid behind a few garbage cans as she watched the goblin meet with 5 other robed figures. Thrake just barely made it to the gathering. He had spent years inside Boomvroomburg's dark underbelly, getting to know the drenches of gnome society. He had made friends with every gnome, goblin, and kobold who could get him connections. He had gotten in the good graces of Boomvroomburg's bad element. He had spent months trying to get this meeting to happen, and he wasn't going to screw it up now. One of the robed figures took off the hood, revealing a gnomed man.
You're cutting close, Thrake.
Petunia was surprised,
Huh?
for she recognized the unhooded gnome as Kelig Vile. He was the head of the Vile crime family, the most wicked family and crime organization in Vroomburg. She didn't know what this gathering was about, but she knew it couldn't be good.
I think I need to change into my outfit.
Thrake was nervous that all eyes were on him now, but he couldn't show that. He would be a sheep running from wolves, the most vicious wolves in Vroomburg. He composed himself.
Let's cut the chase, gentlemen. I think I've found you the best score Boomvroomburg has to offer.
Kelig gave the goblin a dubious look.
I've heard this before, Thrake. That talk usually leads to
A blade extended from Kelig's sleeve.
disappointment for all involved.
The sudden blade made Thrake nervous, but he kept his composure.
Even without the death threats, I would be foolish to disappoint the likes of you fine gents.
Petunia didn't know what the goblin was offering, but if it involved the worst of Boomvroomburg, she had to stop it. She tore off her clothes, revealing her outfit with new knives.
I need to put a stop to this.
Another hooded figure brought down his hood to reveal he was the crime lord, Nigel Incut.
What is...
We would not get to know Nigel any further, nor would he ever finish his sentence as a knife embedded himself in his head, causing Nigel's body to fall to the ground. Where it caused the crime lords to panic, which caused Thrake to panic.
Oh, hell!
Yes!
Petunia cheered to herself.
Ha!
When she saw that her dagger struck true in a crime lord's head, she pulled out several more daggers.
Now,
And smiled to herself.
let's take out the rest of the rubbish.
One of the crime lords looked at Thrake in horror.
You've led us into a trap. I'm getting out of here.
The crime lord started running. But he didn't get far, as a dagger embedded itself in the back of his skull. The other crime lords panicked and ran off. All except one. Kelly glared at Thrake with fury in his eyes.
Thrake, what is this?
Thrake stuttered in a failed attempt to explain how he had no idea what was going on.
You see, what happened was...
Before Thrake could fail to utter a word, Kelly was on him with surprising speed. Kelly's hand wrapped around Thrake's throat.
You will pay for this.
Petunia saw Callie choke the goblin. She had one dagger left. She didn't want to waste it on a throw. She had to get close. His attention was on the goblin. This was perfect time.
I will end your evil.
Kalig's grip grew tighter on Thrake's throat.
This was a very stupid move.
Thrake's constricted throat didn't allow him to agree with Calig. Petunia charged towards Calig with her dagger ready to plunge into his head. However, Calig used his surprising speed to catch Petunia's throat in his hand.
A lot of stupid moves today.
Petunia was able to place a kick into Calig's ribs, causing pain to shoot through Calig's body, and his grip to loosen on Petunia and the goblin. Calig glared at his new opponent with fury.
You will regret that, wench.
Petunia got into a defensive stance.
I'll be the judge of that.
Calig swung his wrist blade, but Petunia ducked under the blow. Petunia went to stab Calig, but he managed to block the blow with a backhand. Craig delivered a kick to Petunia's midsection, causing her to hit the ground. Petunia tried to get to her feet, but Calig's foot hitting her throat knocked her back to the ground. Calig smiled savagely as his foot crushed Petunia's windpipe.
You're a stupid little girl. You are dealing with things over your...
Calig stopped and looked puzzled as Petunia's furious face glared up at him.
Wait. Your face is familiar.
Thrake regained his breath and looked to see Craig occupied with the strange girl. This was his chance. Calig still had Petunia's throat in his hand as he continued to stare at her curiously.
Why do I know your face?
Petunia struggled against the crime lord's grip, but to no avail. He was surprisingly strong for a gnome. He brought his face closer to hers.
Who are you?
Not that Petunia was going to answer the question, but if she was, she wouldn't have had time, as a dagger embedded itself in Calig's shoulder. Pain was enough to distract Calig and loosen his grip. Petunia dropped to the ground. Calig turned to face Thrake, who was standing with another dagger in his hand. Calig sneered.
You will regret your betrayal, goblin.
Calig threw something against the ground and exploded into a cloud of smoke. And when the smoke cleared, Calig was gone, only Petunia and Thrake. Petunia looked around frantically.
Where did he go?
He's not all you need to worry about, love.
Petunia turned her attention to the goblin, who had a hand in his robe.
I have something for you.
Petunia got herself into a defensive position. She was ready for the goblin to pull out another dastardly dagger or a cruel crossbow. But it was worse. The goblin pulled out a badge. He was a constable.
A lot of questions.
Uh-oh.
Sadly, that is all Welkses could tell me before she had to return to her shift and attend to the other prisoners. I was excited for her return tomorrow. I can't wait to see what happens. I waited in anticipation in my cell for Welkses the guard. She was a kind old gnomish woman who looked after us less dangerous criminals. She would bring us some sort of baked good when she would visit the cells. The last time she visited, she not only brought some delicacy, a wonderful pecan pie, by the way, she also brought a story. She had left me on a bit of a cliffhanger the other night, so I was hoping to finish the tale tonight. Oh, wait. She is on her way.
Thrake had been able to infiltrate the Boomvroomburgian underworld. The fact that he was a goblin and already looked down upon made it fairly simple. After years of working his way up the ranks, he had managed to get the worst of the worst to meet up, only to have some strange gnome girl in some stranger battlesuit interrupt his work.
I hope you can explain yourself, little girl.
Petunia faced the constable in shock.
Well, the thing is,
Petunia suddenly ran off.
Oi!
Petunia ran as hard as her legs could carry her through that alley.
Damn you, Petunia! How could you be so daft?
Petunia was back in her hidey hole, working on her next outfit to get her mind off her blunder, when
Madam Petunia.
she heard the voice of her blind butler, Elves. She loved the old gnome, but she hated her work being interrupted. She wanted to continue, but she knew Elvis would get worried, and thus her father would be worried, and her activities... Well, her father would be appalled and put a stop to them immediately. She begrudgingly left her work. Alphys brought Petunia to the mansion after he found her on the premises.
I'm glad I found you, madam. Supper was getting cold, and I wanted you to greet our guest.
Petunia looked at Alphys curiously.
Guests?
Yes, don't you remember? Madam Eliza's joining us.
Oh! Petunia remembered that she had left the cafe and didn't pick her up. Alphys brought Petunia into the parlor where her father, Roscott, was talking to Eliza.
And that's why they call me Sparky.
Petunia walked into the room with nervous laughter.
Is my father talking off your ear?
Eliza stared daggers at Petunia. Petunia cringed at the sight. A vicious smile crossed Eliza's lips.
Well, it is nice to have someone sit and talk with me.
Eliza went back to staring daggers at Petunia, who felt that glare. Roscott, oblivious to the girl's fight, smiled at Eliza.
Well, we can have more conversation with you and your guest at supper.
Petunia was surprised.
Guest?
Hello.
Petunia's eyes grew wide with horror as the goblin constable, now in uniform, walked into the room. He stared at her with a sly smile on his face.
Petunia, is it?
Ooh.
Petunia desperately tried to change the subject by sniffing the air.
Oh, is that supper? We should all go enjoy it before it gets cold.
Everyone sat at the table in silence. Eliza glared at Petunia.
Oh, Petunia?
Petunia looked up with a sigh.
Yes?
Could you pass the potatoes?
Petunia shrugged.
Sure.
Petunia reached for the potatoes.
Or do you have somewhere to be? If so, you could just leave then.
Eliza glared at Petunia. Petunia nearly sneered back. Roscott, sensing the tension without knowing what it was about, decided to start a conversation.
So, Sergeant Thrake, how's your work been treating you?
Petunia looked at Thrake with nervousness as he gave her a knowing smile.
That was fine until yesterday.
Really? What happened?
An interruption.
An interruption?
Petunia stared at Thrake with fear.
I apologise, old friend. Very hush-hush business and all that.
Roscott nodded.
Of course, of course. Rude of me to pry. I honestly don't understand this hush-hush business. I'd rather face my enemy and dispense with secrets. But I guess that is why I'm just a dumb, brute soldier.
No, don't sell yourself short, old man. We need people like you, to be honest.
Thrake gave Petunia a fierce glare.
I would hate people keeping secrets from me.
Petunia squirmed in her seat.
Petunia?
Petunia looked to her father.
Yes?
Is something the matter?
Petunia shook her head to get herself out of her stupor.
No, of course not. I think I just need to excuse myself to the washroom.
My dear, you're a grown woman. don't need permission. Just go.
Yeah. Thank you, Father.
Petunia stood up.
Do remember to come back.
Petunia sneered at Eliza as she left the room. Petunia washed her hands after doing her business. She looked at herself in the mirror.
Oh, Petunia, you've really stepped in it now.
Petunia walked into the lobby where she saw Thrake helping Eliza with her coat.
There you are, dear.
Thank you, Thrake.
Eliza,
Eliza rolled away, paying Petunia very little mind.
Good night, Petunia.
Petunia tried to stop her friend,
Eliza, please.
but Eliza was already wheeling herself out the door. Thrake got Petunia's attention.
We need to talk, little lady.
Thrake and Petunia walked the property together.
Thank you for not outing me.
Wasn't for you. Hell, I might still bring your ass to prison.
Then why didn't you tell my father?
After you botched my plans,
Thrake glared at Petunia.
I decided to do my research. Panic, crime has gone down a bit. Everyone's afraid of some crazy woman with knives.
Really?
Oh, don't get excited, girl. You also put a lot of people in danger.
Why, what do you mean?
Don't be daft, girl. I found out who you are.
This is just a chance encounter. You just happen to know my father.
Yeah, but you pissed off Caddick Vile.
Good. Maybe he'll see the error of his ways.
You don't get it. Members of the Vile family tend to be born with unnatural, sinister intelligence, and he has a century or two experience over the both of us. He'll figure out who you
Petunia thought to herself in fear.
are.
Father, Eliza, what have I done?
You didn't think. That's what you did.
Petunia hung her head in shame.
I have to stop.
Thrake put a hand on Petunia's shoulder.
I didn't come here to make you quit, love.
Petunia looked at Thrake with tears in her eyes.
What?
Now, let's not make this into a pity party. We need to approach this logically.
How so?
Well, for starters, let's get you a mask. Smaller than I like, but it'll do.
Petunia took Thrake to her hidey hole. She figured he already knew her biggest secret. Thrake looked around, nodded approval.
Nice setup you got.
Petunia acted nonchalant, fighting to not smile at Thrake being impressed.
At this place, it does all right.
Petunia sneered.
What is it you want me to train on?
Stealth, what else?
Thrake and Petunia were walking on a roof on a building. Petunia looked at Thrake curiously.
What are we doing here?
First lesson in stealth is surveillance.
What are we surveillancing?
Thrake walked to the edge of the roof and pointed to something. Petunia looked down at what Thrake was pointing at.
Now, what do you see down there?
Petunia set her eyes on a small tailor shop. She looked at Thrake and shrugged.
Why are we watching a tailor shop?
Thrake smiled.
Do your surveillance and you'll find out.
Thrake started walking away.
Hey, where are you going?
Thrake shrugged as he continued to walk away.
Oh, I have to get back to work, sweetheart.
So I'm doing surveillance by myself.
That's your assignment.
How long am I doing this?
Thrake waved as he left.
Bye.
Petunia glared at Thrake as he left.
Petunia stood on the roof, fighting her boredom as she watched the shop.
This better be worth it to Thrake.
She noticed something.
What's this?
Petunia watched two silver mirrors walk into the kitchen.
What are they doing?
Threads returned to them. He saw Petunia still diligent.
Good girl.
Thread looked around. A sad smile came to his face.
Let's say I don't.
Thread put her closer behind Petunia. Closer.
I've been watching this shop for hours.
Thread was proud of Petunia's ways. And a bit disappointed. But business before pleasure.
And?
Two interesting men entered the shop earlier this morning. Evening.
Petunia looked around, remembering that the city was underground.
Earlier today. And they didn't buy anything.
How'd you get to that conclusion?
Well, they came out with nothing. And the shop primarily sells feminine clothing.
Drake shrugged.
Oh, maybe they were looking for the missus.
Petunia shook her head.
Yeah, right.
Drake shrugged again.
I guess you need more information.
Petunia shook her head in disbelief.
No, not more.
Drake, huh?
Yep.
Drake chuckled as he walked away.
I'll make sure to pick up some supper for you when I get a chance.
Petunia glared after Drake as he left. Petunia continued her surveillance, begrudgingly. She had been at it for days, watching the same interesting fellows go in and leave the tailor shop. Then one day, it happened. Petunia was surveying the tailor shop when the two interesting men left the tailor shop. But this time, the owner came out with them.
You can't keep taking my gold. I have a business to run.
One of the gentlemen grabbed the owner by the throat.
There's my evidence.
The owner struggled against the gnome thug's hand.
Please. Don't.
The gnome thugs tightened his grip.
Your business runs because of the protection of me and my associate.
The gnome thug continued to tighten his grip.
Maybe you need a reminder.
Before the shop owner could lose consciousness, she opened her eyes to a screaming gnome thug with a bloody stump where the arm was. The gnome thug looked at his now empty friend in terror.
What the?
That was the last thing the other gnome thug said. As the dagger stabbed him in the back, choked by his own blood. This gnome thug joined his friend in death as Petunia was revealed as the body fell to the ground. And she proceeded to throw it down. And embedded itself into the thug's head. The shop owner looked at the two dead gnome thugs. She looked at her savior. Petunia smiled.
You and your business are safe.
The shop owner stared at Petunia for a moment, yet ran away screaming.
Wait!
But the shop owner kept quiet. Petunia met up with Thrake at a cafe. Thrake ate a sandwich, sloppily.
So, how did surveillance go?
Petunia glared at Thrake.
Well, a shop owner doesn't have to live in fear anymore.
Thrake smiled.
Good work.
Thrake reached for his coat.
I got you a present from that shop.
Thrake handed Petunia a flamboyant mask. Petunia took it with surprise.
How did you get this?
Keep your voice down. Put that away.
Petunia secreted the mask away. She started at
You didn't answer my question.
Petunia secreted the mask away as she stared at Thrake in confusion.
And you were the only one doing surveillance, huh?
You stole it.
Oh, they won't miss it. I'm sure they'd be happy with their saviour getting it. Besides, you need to hide that pretty face if you want to continue your hobby.
That's good. Now we can go after Calig Vile.
Thrake shook his head vigorously.
Oh, no. Your training ain't done, love.
What?
Wilkes had to leave before she ended her tale. I was sad about this. It seemed she was too. I watched her leave with a forlorn look. I figured she was upset she couldn't finish her tale. Oh well, I'm sure to get the conclusion soon. Till then, I must get some rest. It's the only hobby I have. Greetings all. This is Torical Scribeson. Still in prison. Which is alright. It may have put a stop to my project of collecting stories from around the world of parody. But I've had the privilege of the kindest warden, Welksis. She had been giving me some delicious baked goods and a story of her own. It had been a few days since last we talked about her tale. I was worried for Welksis. She seemed a bit sad as of late. I didn't push the issue, but I'd hoped to hear more about her amazing ancestor, Brigadier Boomvroomburg. Welksis finally made the time for me, which was wonderful. She had a smile on her face, but there was a sadness beneath. I am ashamed to say that I really cared about getting my story. She was happy to tell me the last part of her tale.
A group of gnome thugs were laying into the shop, while their leader harassed the older couple that ran.
This is what happens when you don't pay your dues.
Mrs. Pipe tried to shield her husband from the gnome thugs, and stood up and received a punch to the face for his bravery.
Please, don't do this. You must understand, business has been slow. We aren't making much.
The gnome thug leader sneered.
That's not my problem.
I mean, it kind of is.
The gnome thug leader glared at Mrs. Pipe with fury.
You're smarting off to me.
The gnome thug leader raised his hand to backhand Mrs. Pipe. The old shopkeeper braced for impact, but was surprised that the impact never came. She opened her eyes to see the gnome thug leader staring blankly at her.
Sir?
The gnome thug leader fell to the floor, revealing the dagger in the back of his head. Mrs. Pipe looked around frantically.
What the?
Mrs. Pipe looked around to find the other thugs laying dead on the floor as the gnome woman in a sleek black suit with a masquerade mask standing over them.
You're safe now, madam.
Mrs. Pipe stared at her hero in shock, then started screaming.
Oh! 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 Oh!
The brigadier cringed.
Yes, I'll show myself out then.
Petunia Piston, a.k.a. Brigadier Boomvroomburg, had been cleaning up the city. She had received training from a constable undercover agent named Thrake in surveillance and other constable skills to help her be a better cleaner. She had dealt with various lowlives and nare-do-wells. She had stopped many a criminal and prevented many emergencies. She was about to face her greatest trial. Petunia waited at the cafe where she had abandoned her friend Eliza to investigate a strange goblin that ended up being Thrake, and she ended up ruining his investigations and gaining the ire of the crime lord Calig Vile. Petunia was very tense. Eliza could be a handful when she was angry. She was surprised to see Eliza wheeling up in her chair, with Thrake pushing her chair.
What the?
Petunia, Thrake, and Eliza sat in silence. Petunia didn't know how long it lasted, but she knew she couldn't stand it anymore.
All right. I'm sorry.
She had a sly smile on her face.
Sorry for what?
Petunia glared angrily at Eliza.
You know.
Eliza leaned in towards Petunia.
I want to hear you say it.
Petunia turned her head away. Eliza shrugged.
That's fine. I can wait. I don't abandon my friends. Unlike some people.
Petunia jumped to her feet and stormed off.
This was a bad idea.
Eliza shouted at Petunia.
Go ahead. Leave. It's what you're good at.
Eliza crossed her arms over her chest in anger. She looked towards Thrake, who glared at her.
Go talk to her.
Thrake continued to glare at Eliza.
Please.
Thrake nodded, stood up, and walked off. Petunia stormed down a street with other gnomes hustling and bustling about, doing her best and failing to hold back her tears.
Petunia!
Petunia stopped in her tracks. She wiped her eyes as best she could and turned to face Thrake, who was running towards her.
I know.
Thrake stopped to catch his breath.
Good. I'm glad I ran over you.
Sorry, Thrake. She's just so...
Stubborn,
Petunia nodded.
like her friends.
Petunia glared at Thrake.
Anyway, you should apologize, love.
Petunia gave Thrake a confused look.
Why do I have to care so much?
I just, think you shouldn't do what you do. Hello, that's all.
Petunia stared at Thrake in confusion. Then realization hit her.
Wait, you... Eliza? You're...
Petunia put two of her fingers together. Thrake looked away, embarrassed.
No. When?
Remember when we met?
That long ago.
Thrake looked annoyed.
She is a lovely lady. Not quite the catch-all alien, though. Besides, I'll have you know I have a life outside of you and work.
Petunia glared at Thrake.
No, you don't.
Thrake and Petunia stared at each other, then broke into laughter.
Come on. You have an apology to me.
I guess you're right. She is the reason I do what I do.
Thrake and Petunia returned to the cafe, where a server was waiting for them.
Excuse me, are you Madame Petunia?
Petunia looked puzzled.
Yes?
The server handed Petunia a note.
I was told to give this to you.
Petunia opened the note tentatively.
Thank you?
Petunia read the note and air escaped from her.
Oh my god!
Petunia ran off to the surprise of Thrake and the server.
Wait! Petunia! What's going on?
Thrake ran after Petunia, leaving the server confused.
Am I not getting a tip?
Petunia found her way to the table. She found Eliza's chair, but no Eliza.
Oh god, no!
Thrake caught up.
Will you stop all that running?
Petunia turned to look at Thrake.
They took her!
Thrake stared at Petunia in shock.
What?
Petunia handed Drake the note. He read it.
Dear Brigadier Boomvroomburg, or should I say Petunia Piston. That's right. We know who you are. Sincerely, Caleb File.
Thrake crumpled up the note.
Damn it!
Petunia and Thrake made their way to Petunia's hidey hole, where Petunia mixed some chemicals, while Thrake paced the floor, reading and rereading the note. Petunia was getting annoyed.
Read it all you like, but it won't say anything different.
Thrake glared at Petunia.
I'm not just reading it. I'm studying it.
Same thing.
Most certainly not. I'll have you know that I discern a lot from this piece of paper.
Is that right?
Let me demonstrate. The feel of this paper is soft and thin, but durable, which narrows down to 3 paper-making companies. And as far as the smell, there's a hint of salt water, so it's by the river that leads out of the mountain into the ocean.
Petunia shrugged.
Which means?
Thrake wagged his finger at Petunia.
Don't get ahead of me. Anyway, the colour tone of this note is old, which I know for a fact they don't make it anymore, which would lead me to believe this came from the abandoned white leaf paper factory by the docks on the south side of town.
Thrake handed Petunia the paper with a smug look on his face. Petunia snatched the note out of his hand and looked at it. She glared at Thrake.
I'm sure the stamp on the back helped.
Thrake sneered. At the abandoned factory, several gnome, goblin, and kobold thugs patrolled the area. Petunia and Thrake hid behind a crate on the dock, surveying the paper factory.
It's a lot less security from the abandoned paper factory.
Indeed.
Ready to test the new equipment.
Petunia opened her coat to reveal a plethora of daggers.
I've been dying to.
So have I.
2 kobold thug guards patrolled the east side of the factory. They stopped as a dagger embedded itself between them. The kobold thugs looked at it in confusion.
Huh?
The dagger suddenly sprayed a green mist. The 2 kobold thug guards lost consciousness. 2 goblin thug guards patrolled the west end of the factory, when a dagger sailed through the air and embedded itself into a goblin thug guard's chest, causing him to fall to his death. The other goblin thug guard stared down at his dead companion in shock.
What the?
The dagger shot dart into the other goblin thug guard's neck, which injected a burning venom into the guard thug, killing him instantly. 2 gnome thug guards patrolled the north side of the paper factory and stopped as one of them saw a dagger fly through the air. The 2 gnome thug guards merely dodged the dagger, which embedded itself into the wall. The 2 gnome thug guards looked back at the dagger, where it came from. They saw Brigadier Boomvroomburg standing before them.
Nice throw, love. Yeah, you need to work on your aim, sweetheart.
The brigadier smirked.
Is that so?
The dagger fired bolts of electricity into the gnome thug guards. The gnome thug guards fell to the ground. Kelly Vile paced before Eliza, who was tied to a chair, while several kobold, goblin, and gnome thug guards guarded her. She glared at Kelly.
You feel like a man, do you? You and all these
Eliza looked around at the thugs in disgust.
men needing to guard the poor disabled girl. Oh, so strong. Pathetic.
Eliza spat at Kelly. But her projectile fell short. Kaelig looked at the spittle on the floor. He brought his head up to look at his captive and smiled.
Sweetheart, could you stop shouting? You're hurting my feelings.
Kaelig rolled his eyes.
Brigadier better get here soon.
Two goblin thug guards stood
How about you
before a
untie
door
me
at
and
the
I'll
back
show
of the
you what I
factory.
can hurt?
I don't like how quiet it is.
The other goblin thug guard shrugged.
Maybe there's no danger.
A dagger entered the chest of the other goblin thug guard. He looked down at the dagger and then to his compatriot.
Never mind.
The surviving goblin thug guard looked down in a panic
Oh shit.
before he could complete his sentence and take action. A dagger found its way into his chest. He joined his compatriot in death. Petunia and Thrake ran up to the door.
That should be the last of them.
On the outside,
Oh, I would appreciate more positivity.
you're talking to the wrong guy, love.
Petunia and Thrake ran through the factory.
I hope she's okay.
Petunia and Thrake ran into a room where they found Eliza tied to a chair with a rope around her mouth. Petunia was excited to see her friend.
Eliza!
Petunia ran to Eliza. Thrake tried to stop her.
Wait!
But Petunia was already removing Eliza's gag.
Oh, I'm glad you're all right.
As soon as the gag was out of Eliza's mouth, she shouted.
It's a trap!
As if on cue, goblin, kobold, and gnome thugs jumped out of the shadows.
Thank you, Miss Eliza. But I think she gathered that much.
Thrake tried to disappear into the shadows, but felt the tip of a crossbow in his back. A gnome thug chuckled in his ear.
Where are you going, buddy?
Kaelig smirked at Thrake.
So glad you could join us, Thrake. Or should I say, Constable.
Thrake sneered at Kaelig.
I prefer you don't call me at all, mate.
Quaint.
Kaelig turned his attention back to the Brigadier.
I should thank you, Brigadier. Or would you prefer Petunia?
Eliza looked toward the Brigadier in shock.
Petunia?
Petunia laughed nervously as she put Eliza's gag back on.
I think you need this back.
Don't you dare!
Anyway, I have to thank you, Petunia, because of your interference. When you killed the other crime lords, I acquired more real estate.
You're welcome. I guess you could show your appreciation by letting us go.
Cute, but sadly no. You've become a liability and must be dealt with.
Petunia sneered.
Well, that's a fine you're welcome.
I'll tell you what, as a thank you, I'll grant you an expedient death.
Petunia sneered.
Oh, thanks.
Kaelig shrugged.
You brought this on yourself, Brigadier.
Petunia hung her head in shame.
Oh, you're right. I guess I shouldn't have come here without a plan. I guess I...
Petunia shook and smiled.
Drop the ball.
Thrake nodded. Kaelig was confused.
Huh?
Thrake reached into his coat and pulled out two balls and threw them against the ground. Kaelig and his men choked on the smoke. As it cleared, he saw that the Brigadier, Thrake, and Eliza were gone. The gnome thug guarding Thrake laid on the ground unconscious. Kaelig glared at his men.
Don't just stand there, find them!
Petunia and Thrake ran down a hallway. Thrake had Eliza on his back. Thrake undid Eliza's gag.
What's going on? Why did this man take me? How is Petunia the Brigadier? What?
Petunia shook her head.
You shouldn't have took that off.
Thugs ran down the hallway. Thrake looked behind and then to Petunia.
We, better pick up the pipes, loves.
Run! We should fight!
Don't think that would be a good idea.
Why not? We can take them?
First off, no. Second off, We don't want to be here for the surprise we left them.
Surprise?
The thugs continued to run after the escapees until the two thugs heard a ticking sound, which made them stop.
What's that?
The other thug shrugged.
Beats me.
Both thugs investigate the noise to find a box with a crude clock attached on it. There were several wires coming out of it.
Boom!
The bomb exploded. Thrake looked back to see a ball of fire chasing after him and his compatriots.
Run faster!
What?
Eliza looked back to see the same ball following her and her compatriots. She shouted in Petunia's ear.
Run faster!
Thrake and Petunia jumped through windows as the abandoned factory exploded. They landed in the water. Thrake, Petunia, and Eliza sat in the Brigadier's hidey hole, chatting. It had been a few years since the Brigadier's first mission, and they were waxing nostalgic.
Do you remember how long it took us to dry it off?
Indeed. Good thing we found you that wheelbarrow.
Oh, good for you. You didn't have to ride in it. Do you know how undignified it is to ride in a wheelbarrow? Like a pile of dirt?
Thrake put his arm around Eliza.
That reminds me, our anniversary is coming up.
Did I hear right? My husband remembered an anniversary.
Thrake sneered.
It's hard to forget when there's an egg in your ear.
You idiot!
Eliza playfully pushed Thrake, but the two shared a kiss. Petunia looked disgusted by the sight.
What do you have to do that? I just ate.
An alarm sounded, interrupting the fun.
Seems someone needs the Brigadier.
Aww.
A group of gnome thugs surrounded a young couple leader with a dagger at them.
Give us all your valuables, no one gets hurt.
The gnome boy stood in front of his gnome group.
Please take what you want, but don't hurt her!
Look here, fellas. A hero.
The gnome girl pointed towards something above.
Speaking of which...
The gnome thug leader looked up in confusion.
Huh?
The gnome thugs looked up in horror as Brigadier Boomvroomburg stood on top of a building overlooking the scene.
Hey! Are you harassing this couple?
The gnome thug leader shook his head in disbelief.
Oh, hell.
The Brigadier leapt from the top of the building and started dispensing justice.
Wilkes had finished her tale. She said that there was more, but she couldn't finish in the short time we had together. I was perplexed by what she meant, but she had left my cell before I could inquire more. I thought nothing of it. I was just going to wait in anticipation for the next story. Not much else I could do. Interesting turn of events. Wilkes informed me that she was forced to retire this morning. She came to me because she thought my mission was too important to end, so she decided to help me leave. This was a wonderful...
Quiet. Someone would hear us.
Oh, sorry. We had made it to the flybox port. I'm attempting to get into a flybox.
Hey, what are you doing?
Oh no, Wilkes, we've been caught.
Get in the damn flybox already.
Come on.
I can't.
What?
My old adventuring days are behind me, love. I'm far too old.
But...
Stop right there! Get out of that fly box!
Goodbye.
Oh, damn it! Not again!
My fly box had landed on top of a mountain. I was happy to be free, but I was not happy to find myself alone on the top of a snowy mountain, freezing to death. I made my way down the mountain. I wish I had brought some winter clothing. I thought that I would freeze to death in that tundra, but as luck would have it, some dwarven hunters had found me and took pity on this pathetic gnome. They brought me to the nearest village, to the nearest inn, the Yawning Yeti, I think it's called, where I was provided with warm mead and thick blankets. They asked what my daft ass was doing in the snow with little winter wear. Dwarves are a very blunt lot. I told them about my mission, which seemed to excite them. They told me the tale of a very talented mountain dwarf.
At the top of Mount Clivespike, in the village of Schneekam, Jack, as a village blacksmith. Hannah, wife of Jargen, the blacksmith, has given birth to a baby boy. Jargen looked down in pride.
He's beautiful, my love.
Hannah smiled down at her new baby.
Oh, that he is, husband?
She looked up curiously at her husband.
What shall we name him?
Jargen stroked his beard as he thought. Then it came to him as he smiled down at his new son.
I will name him after my father, Ragnar. And he shall be a great blacksmith, like my father and his father before him.
Jargen was half right. Ragnar would be great. Several years had passed, and little Ragnar had grown into an adolescent. One day, when Jargen was working in his shop, little Ragnar ran to his father.
Papa! Papa!
Jargen smiled down at his son.
Yes, my boy?
Little Ragnar shook in excitement.
Am I old enough to help in the forge, Papa?
Jargen laughed.
Of course, little one. I think you are old enough now.
Little Ragnar squealed with delight. Little Ragnar was excited to help as he carried some ingots in his arms, which were a bit too heavy. Jargen watched with worry as his son skipped, barely, with the ingots precariously in his arms.
Do you need help?
Little Ragnar shook his head as he continued to struggle with the ingots.
No, Papa. I have it.
Little Ragnar continued his skip while struggling to carry the ingots. They didn't notice an ingot on the floor. His foot hit it, and he tumbled forward with the ingots. Jargen winced as he watched his son fall into the ingots. A few days had passed. Jargen was back at the forge, and little Ragnar skipped to his father, after some time with the town healer, and inquired.
Papa? Papa?
Jargen smiled down at his son, a little nervous this time.
Yes, my son?
Can I help you in the forge?
Jargen thought for a moment. Little Ragnar looked up with curious doe eyes.
Sure.
Jargen carved a stick for the handle of an axe he was making. As Ragnar attempted the same, I must stress, attempted.
Ow. 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 Ow.
As he carved his fingers as much as he would. Jargen winced as he watched his son. Jargen hammered the metal for the axe blade. and he looked over at his son, who was hammering his own axe blade, and winced at the shape, or lack of shape, that developed in the metal. Jurgen looked at the axe he built with pride.
What a fine piece of work. If I do say so myself.
The axe handle was beautifully brown wood Jurgen had carved woven runes into. The axe blade was a black metal adorned in more dwarven runes that shined in the light. Jurgen looked over to his son.
Let's see your axe, my son.
Jurgen stifled a gasp at Ragnar's creation. The handle was a crooked zigzag, and the blade was almost a hammerhead. Jurgen forced a smile.
Oh, it's...
Ragnar looked up at his father with big, doe eyes.
Yes, Papa?
Jurgen forced a smile.
Wonderful. Just wonderful.
Ragnar smiled. Jurgen was running in the shop portion of his forge. A customer walked up to the shop, studying Jurgen's wares. Jurgen put on his best salesman smile and engaged.
Greetings, traveler. Looking for something for protection and defense in this very trying lands?
The customer rubbed his bearded chin.
I am sinking.
The customer noticed something behind Jurgen and gave him a dubious look.
All your wares are quality?
Jurgen looked back to find Ragnar's axe prominently displayed, convinced. Little did Jurgen know, Ragnar was watching and listening. Jurgen looked around, leaned in towards the customer.
Can I ask you a favor?
The customer shrugged.
Sure. For a price.
Jurgen sighed. Ragnar continued to listen to the exchange. Jurgen gave the customer Ragnar's axe, along with a sack of gold. He gave the customer a strained smile.
Thank you for your patronage.
The customer beamed with a big smile on his face.
Thank you. I've never gotten such a good deal. I'll be sure to visit this establishment again.
Jurgen sneered.
Sure you will.
Ragnar watched the sale in sadness. Jurgen waved to the customer with a forced smile as they left. He turned to see a curtain moving. Jurgen, being of a wise mind, figured an unwanted audience.
Oh, Ragnarok.
A few days passed. Jurgen was working in his forge as usual. When little Ragnar walked up to him,
Papa.
looking somber, Jurgen stopped his work and looked down at the sun with a weak smile.
Hello, son.
Little Ragnar composed himself.
I don't think I want to help you in the forge anymore.
Jurgen put a hand on his son's shoulder.
That's all right, son.
Is it?
Jurgen knelt down so he was eye level with his son.
Listen, son. We can't all do what we want.
Really, Papa?
I dreamed of you becoming a blacksmith, but it is not your calling.
What is my calling, Papa?
Jurgen shook his head.
My dear boy, I can't tell you that. No one can.
Little Ragnar was worried.
How will I know, Papa?
Jurgen rubbed his son's head.
Don't worry, son. You will find it.
Little Ragnar hugged his father.
All right, Father. I will be all right.
Good to hear, son.
Jurgen hugged his son, who did not feel all right. Little Ragnar grew into, well, Ragnar, and set about on a journey to find his calling. He spent some time as a lumberjack. But after an incident where he lost a lot of wood, he was politely asked to leave.
Get out of here.
He spent some time as a cook for the local tavern. However, his culinary skills were not ideal, as he was politely asked to leave.
Never darken my doorstep again.
He spent some time as a hunter, but ended up trying to steal some game from a dire cave bear, endangering his fellow hunters. Luckily, everyone survived, however.
Stay out of the wilderness, boy.
You can figure it out. Ragnar came home after his fifth or sixth attempt at finding his calling. He sat down next to his mother, who was knitting, which she stopped to address her son.
Are you all right, my son?
No. I'm just so tired, Mother.
Hannah looked at her son in sadness.
Dear son, I think you need to do something relaxing.
Ragnar looked to his mother.
Like what?
Hannah thought for a moment. She looked down at her knitting. She smiled.
I know.
Hannah shoved some wool and knitting needles towards Ragnar.
Why don't you try knitting?
Ragnar looked at the knitting supplies in his lap and shrugged.
Probably screw it up, but why not?
Hannah smiled at her son.
That's the spirit.
Hannah thought about it.
Sort of.
The knitting did relax Ragnar. So much that he shut out the rest of the world and just kept knitting. Knitting. And knitting. Hannah tried to get her son's attention.
Ragnar? Ragnar?
Ragnar was so focused that he just tuned out of his mother.
Ragnar!
Ragnar came out of his stupor and looked at his mother.
Huh?
Hannah stared at her son in awkward confusion.
You really enjoyed that, didn't you?
Ragnar looked down to find that he had knitted a pair of socks. He shook his head in disbelief since he couldn't remember making the socks.
Yeah, I guess I did.
Ragnar looked from his socks to his mother. He offered her the garments he had made.
Want some socks?
Hannah didn't really want the socks, but she did want to boost her son's confidence. She forced a smile.
Of course, mine son.
Hannah slowly took the socks from Ragnar.
Thank you.
Jürgen was reading a book in bed. Hannah walked into their communal bedroom with a confused look on her face.
Honey?
Jürgen looked up from his book.
Yes, my love?
I need you to see something.
What is it, dear?
Hannah started lifting her skirt up. Jürgen was excited for a moment when he thought they were about to have bedroom congress. But she merely gave him a concerned look and said,
Have you seen my new socks?
Jürgen smiled, although he was disappointed.
Oh, they look nice. Are they comfortable?
Hannah stared at Jürgen in shock.
Are they comfortable? Honey, these are the most comfortable socks I've ever worn.
Jürgen looked at his wife in confusion.
I'm glad you are excited about your socks, but I don't understand why you are this excited.
Look at what I'm wearing.
Jürgen looked his wife up and down, and she shrugged.
So you're wearing a nightgown?
Realization struck Jürgen. Hannah was in a thin nightgown, and her special socks looking untouched by the cold as he was under 3 of the thickest blankets and still chilly.
How are you not freezing to death?
Hannah shrugged, with a look of exasperation on her face.
I know. I was freezing before I put these socks on.
Jürgen looked at his wife in joyous exuberance.
This is amazing. You somehow made magic socks.
Hannah looked away.
I didn't make them.
Jürgen gave his wife a confused look.
Who did?
Hannah looked away from her husband. Ragnar sat in the family's living room, being depressed.
Son,
Ragnar looked up to see his mother and father staring down at him.
would you like to do some more knitting?
Ragnar shrugged.
Sure.
Jürgen and Hannah laid in bed together with their own set of Ragnar socks. They had no blanket on, merely lied on the bed as the cold air touched them, but did not affect them.
I have never felt this comfortable.
Jürgen looked at his wife and realized what he had just said.
I mean, I love your quilts and other garments, it's just...
Hannah put a finger on her husband's lips.
My darling, I'm not even offended. Now,
Hannah laid back.
let's just enjoy this moment.
The next day, Ragnar sat in the living room, looking out of the window, pitying himself. When suddenly, knitting needles and balls of yarn and wool were dropped in his lap.
What's
Ragnar looked up to see his parents staring at him with crazed smiles.
What's going on?
You found your calling.
A few days later, Jürgen had built an extension to his forge to sell Ragnar's socks. At first, people didn't understand it.
I don't understand this.
But slowly,
This is new.
his business venture grew. And over the next few days, Ragnar's socks sold so well that his family was the richest family in the village. Ragnar's fame grew across the land. Everyone wanted Ragnar's socks, even a few nare-do-wells. Largo was having a good day. He didn't come upon one dwarf. He didn't come upon 2 dwarves. He didn't come upon 3 dwarves. He came upon 6 dwarves, which was good eats for a troll. He chewed a dwarf leg with a big grin on his face. He didn't only find some dwarven smorgasbord, he also found that their socks had kept him warm in the howling icy wind. Albeit, he had to have a sock on each toe to get the effect. Back in Largo's tribe's cave, the others, Raksik, Thorg, and Ortag, were feasting on some old wolf meat over a pathetic fire. Raksik, the leader, because he said so, saw that Ortag had more wolf meat than him, not realizing he had wolfed down his share, snatched the meat out of Ortag's hands.
Give me!
Ortag gave Raksik an angry glare. Raksik growled at his subordinate, which made Ortag cower like a weak pup. Thor growled, more out of frustration.
Ah! When Largo come back with dwarf meat?
Raksik shrugged.
Me not know when he leave.
Orc thought about it for a moment, threw his hands up in the air. At that moment, Largo walked into the cave, whistling a happy tune. The other trolls looked at Largo angrily.
Why are you so happy?
Largo shrugged with a big smile on his face.
Me had banquet.
Raksik looked Largo over. Largo looked confused.
Where is it? Where is what? Banquet. Dwarf meat. Food! Where is it?
Largo nodded his head in realization.
Oh, that.
Largo looked at his empty hands, then he looked to his full stomach. Then he looked to Raksik with a nervous smile on his face.
Oops. Largo, you had one job!
Largo shrugged sheepishly.
Sorry.
Raxic rolled his eyes.
You at least get wood for fire?
Largo looked away sheepishly, which enraged Raxic.
Come on, Largo, it's freezing!
Largo looked around curiously.
It is?
The other trolls looked at Largo in shock.
You're not cold? How?
Largo shrugged.
Largo not know.
Largo looked down at his feet.
Oh yeah. Largo finds special socks.
The other trolls looked at Largo's feet in astonishment.
Special socks?
Where get?
It was a day like any other day. Ragnak was selling more socks. Ragnak, after another day of profit, Ragnak closed up his shop, made his way to the local tavern. He was excited to go since they had unbanned him. He hadn't had ale in quite some time. He ran into something.
Oof!
Caused him to fall on his hindquarters into snow.
Who grew a tree here?
Ragnak looked up and gasped. Just as he looked up, not a tree, but a troll. Not just one troll, but 4 of them. The trolls smiled down menacingly at Ragnak.
Hello.
Ragnak shivered in fear and cold. He was sitting in the snow.
Hello?
You Ragnak?
Ragnak nodded weakly.
Yes?
You make socks?
Ragnak nodded weakly again.
Yes.
They good socks.
Ragnak smiled weakly.
Thank you?
You make socks for us.
Ragnak tried backing away.
Well, my shop opens in the morning, so you can ask then.
Raxic grabbed Ragnak up in his hand and held him inches from his face.
Me no ask you.
The trolls stomped off with Ragnak. He tried to call for help.
Help!
But a gnarled large finger covered his mouth. Raxic threw Ragnak into the corner of the cave.
Oof!
Raxic wagged a finger at the dwarf.
Now make socks.
Ragnak looked around the cave. He gave the troll a fearful look.
Slight problem?
Raxic sneered at the dwarf.
What?
Ragnak winced.
I have no materials.
And?
Ragnak stared at Raxic for a moment.
I can't make the socks out of nothing.
Raxic growled in frustration.
What you need?
Well, for starters, I need needles.
Fine.
Raxic walked out of the room.
Largo, watch dwarf.
Raxic wandered down a mountain. Raxic shivered and grumbled.
Where me find needles?
Largo stood, watching Ragnak.
You better make good socks when Raxic come back.
Ragnak looked up at the troll sheepishly.
I don't know if I will be able to.
Largo looked down at the dwarf in rage.
What?
Ragnak shrank away.
He went off before I could tell him all the materials. I need wool to make the socks out of.
Fine. Me go get wool.
Largo walked away, shouting.
Ortag, you watch dwarf.
Raxic was still searching around the mountain.
This take 4.
Raxic saw something that made his jaw drop. Raxic saw a dire porcupine sleeping on a rock. And its back was covered in long, needle-like quills. Raxic smiled.
Needles!
Raxic tiptoed toward the sleeping dire porcupine.
Careful, Ranth.
grabbed for the dire porcupine's quills. He grabbed 2 quills and yanked. Waking the dire porcupine, porcupine turned its attention to Raxic and growled. Raxic tried to back away.
Oops.
But the porcupine thirsted for blood and revenge. It leapt towards Raxic and attacked him viciously. Orteg guarded Ragnak.
Better make good socks.
Will do my best.
Orteg gave Ragnar a confused look.
What do you mean? Don't you just need needles and wool?
Ragnar shrugged sheepishly.
Well, I need to stay hydrated and...
You need water?
Ragnar nodded.
Yes, and...
Orteg stormed off.
Fog, watch prisoner.
Lago continued his trek on the mountain.
Where are we going to find wool?
Lago stopped as he heard something.
What that?
Lago went to investigate the noise. Lago peeked over a boulder to find a group of Arioks. Arioks were a race of ram folk who lived in the mountains. They're a chaotic bunch. Sometimes they held trolls or after dwarves and other mountain denizens. Sometimes they were rivals. Again, they were a chaotic bunch. They were also covered in wool.
That will do.
Orteg trekked around the mountain.
Help me find water.
Thorg stood guard of Ragnak.
Getting everything you need.
Ragnak looked up at Thor sheepishly.
Well, I am hungry.
You're so needy.
Thorg stormed off. Lago had a vicious fight with the Arioks. Orteg trekked for a while, thinking he wouldn't find any water until he heard something. Orteg smiled.
Water?
Orteg peeked over a rock to find a pool full of monkeys. Orteg smiled.
It's monkey flavored, but water is water.
Dog trekked down a path down the mountain.
What dwarves eat?
Orteg fought with monkeys. Thor continued his search on the mountain.
Have to be something for dwarf to eat.
Thor heard something that caught his attention. Thor smiled.
Me short dwarf eat bird.
Dog found a nest of eggs. Dog looked around curiously.
Me thought there was bird here.
Dog shrugged.
Oh well. Maybe dwarf like eggs.
Dog reached for the eggs. He looked up as he heard something. A large eagle soared towards Dog and thrashed at him.
Ow, 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 ow!
Sick walked down the mountain with his arm full of quills, with more embedded in his body. Argo walked with an arm full of eriac wool and a body full of spears. Ortag walked with a bowl, a hollowed rock essentially full of water, and his body covered in scratches. Dora carried a nest of eggs and the corpse of the eagle. His body was covered in scratches. Trolls met back at their cave with excitement.
Me brought
Looked at his wares and shrugged.
needles.
Largo presented his find.
Me bring wool.
Ortag presented his find.
Me bring water.
Thorg presented his find.
Me bring food.
The trolls nodded to each other in satisfaction.
Now dwarf make us good socks.
A realization came to Raxic.
Wait, who guarding dwarf?
The other trolls looked at each other in concern. Ragnar made his way through the snow. Although he was happy to escape the trolls, he found another problem in the whiteness of the snow.
Where am I?
Ragnar continued to trek through the snow. He didn't know how long he had been traveling, but he knew it had been a long time. For his beard and hair had grown exponentially. He didn't know what to do until he remembered.
Of course!
He had some needles in his back pocket.
I could make some socks!
But Ragnar remembered he didn't have any wool.
Right.
Ragnar looked around for anything he could use, and he found it right under his nose. Literally. He glared down at his long beard.
You'll have to do.
Ragnar began the long and painful process of tearing out his beard and hair.
Oh! Oh! Ah!
And knitting them into socks. Ragnar trekked through the snow in his new self-made socks, which kept him warm, however. It didn't give him directions back home. Ragnar had survived on snow, small, easy-to-catch animals over the days, the weeks, the months, the years. But eventually he found his way home. Ragnar walked through his village, shocked at finding people staring at him. He didn't recognize anyone. The other villagers seemed to be made uncomfortable by the dwarf with clumps of hair and almost naked with his torn clothes and self-made socks. He shook his head in disbelief.
How long have I been gone?
A realization came to Ragnar.
Mother! Mother!
Ragnar made his way to his shop to find it in ruin.
What happened?
A villager was walking by. He saw the strange dwarf and took pity on him.
Sir,
Ragnak turned his attention to the villager.
are you all right?
Ragnak looked to the villager in shock and confusion.
I hope so. Can you tell me what happened to the family that lived here?
The villager shook his head.
It's a shame. They were a family doing very well making.
The villager thought for a moment.
I think it was hats.
Ragnak sneered.
Really?
The villager shrugged.
Anyway, the son, who was the talent, went missing. The parents looked around everywhere for him, but were unsuccessful.
The villager hung his head in sadness.
They died of grief.
Ragnak hung his head and shook it.
I'm all alone now.
What's that?
Ragnak didn't even acknowledge the villager. He simply walked away. The villager scratched his head and shrugged.
Okay, bye then.
Having nothing left, Ragnak went back out into the Skyvound wilderness. No one knows what happened to him. But there are stories of travelers finding an old disheveled dwarf offering socks to those in need.
I woke up with a bit of a headache. Mountain dwarves do know how to celebrate. I barely remember my last night, but I found that I had new socks. They were the best socks I've ever had. Could they have been a gift from... No, it couldn't be. They had given me a ram and had sent me on my way. I was off up to my next adventure. My ram took me down the mountain towards the country of Pimpel. It was called Pimpel due to its many hills. I would have named it something less gross, but it wasn't my country. The mountain dwarves would not join me, for there was a feud between them and the hill dwarves. I didn't understand why, but they had hated each other for centuries, so I doubted I would change their minds. I found myself in the village of Popski. I thought they might be leery of me coming from the mountain dwarf camp, but surprisingly, they were rather welcoming. The hill dwarves took me to a tavern. Dwarves certainly love their drink. I talked to a few of the dwarves and brought up the subject of my project.
Thiere, a small hill boy dwarf, was playing behind his home. He was fighting invisible dragons with his sword when he heard something. Most children would have been scared, but Thiere was more curious than afraid, much to the detriment of his...
What is that?
Thiere went to investigate. He wasn't afraid. He had his trusty sword with him. It was good against dragons and giants. Granted, they were figments of his imagination. He ran towards the noise. Galina, Yuri's mother, was cooking dinner. She was pulling a roast out of the oven when she called for her son.
Yuri! Time for supper!
Galina was concerned when she heard no answer. Galina stepped outside and gasped to not find her son.
Oh God, what is he up to now?
Yuri followed the moans. He knew he was getting closer, for the moans were getting louder. Yuri was about to find the source of the moaning until he heard something else.
Yuri!
Yuri felt his eyes roll practically on their own. His mother was coming to ruin his fun.
Yuri!
However, he knew that if he didn't return, his mother would ground him and it would be longer before he could have his fun.
Yuri!
Yuri, very reluctantly, went to his mother. Mikhail, Yuri's father, was out cutting wood. He had to make his quota before the winter came. He was the village's #1 lumberjack, and he had to keep up his reputation. He was on his last tree of the day when he heard something. Mikhail stopped chopping with terror in his heart.
Oh God, the Hell Dwarf.
Mikhail dropped his axe and started running. His quota didn't seem to matter at the moment. Yuri ate his supper with tears in his eyes. Supper was roast beef, which was usually one of his favorites, but after his mother's talk, mostly her hand talking to his backside, he didn't much care for his meal. Galina glared at her son from across the table. Galina wolfed down her food as she continued her stern glare at her son.
This will teach you from wandering from home and telling tall tales.
Yuri gave his mother a pleading look.
But Mama...
Galina shot a glare at her son that felt like daggers being fired at him. Yuri silenced himself and went back to eating. Mikhail continued running.
Must check on the family.
Galina was cleaning the dishes when Mikhail ran into the house, surprising and scaring his wife.
Mikhail, what is wrong with you?
Mikhail looked at his wife, his eyes wide with terror.
Did you hear moaning today?
Galina stared at her husband in confusion and concern.
What?
Moaning woman. Did you hear it?
Galina shook her head.
No,
Galina gasped in shock as a realization came to her.
Oh my God, Yuri heard moaning.
Yuri was in bed with a full stomach, after Mother had made some guilt cake. But he was still curious about the moaning sound and why his father seemed so scared of it. Mikhail walked into his son's room.
How are you, my son?
Yuri shrugged.
I'm all right.
Mikhail nodded solemnly.
That's good, son.
Mikhail went to leave the room.
Good night.
Yuri reached for his father.
Father, wait. Why were you worried about the moaning?
Mikhail stopped in his tracks with a wince. He slowly turned round to face his son.
I guess there's no time better than the present.
Mikhail sat on Yuri's bed and gave his son a weak smile.
I have to tell you about Ansky Karluk.
Yuri gave his father a curious look.
Yes, the Hell Dwarf. Once, many moons ago.
Zietzky Karlik?
Mikhail nodded. Mikhail told the story, worried that Yuri would have nightmares. What he was unaware of is Yuri was interested. Maybe too interested.
There was a young dwarf named Boris Emberborn, the son of the blacksmith Maxim Emberson. Who taught him blacksmithing? What are you making?
It's a horseshoe, father.
Maxim grabbed Boris's creation and inspected it. You call this a horseshoe, boy? This is a hunk of metal dung. Boris's anger grew.
It is a fine horseshoe. Your old eyes just can't recognize quality anymore.
Maxim glared at the son with fury. What did you say? Boris's anger had become fear as he realized what he had done.
Father, no, I...
The back of Maxim's hand caught Boris's face, sending him to the floor. Boris looked down at his son with fury and shook. He looked down at his son with fury and shook. You will spend the rest of the day making horseshoes until you get it right. Maxim threw the horseshoe towards Boris, just barely missing his head. Maxim has taught Boris how to blacksmith, but he also taught him how to hate. Boris made his way to the short forest. Boris made his way to the short. Boris had found a clearing. He checked to see if he was alone. When he could find no onlookers and no one in earshot, he plopped himself on the ground. Insolvent. Boris wasn't aware of how long he had been in the forest. But he knew it was getting dark.
Oh no, I must make my way home before my father beats me again.
Little did Boris know is that he had an audience in a sinister being. Boris had stopped running, for he found that he was quite lost.
I've made an error in judgment.
I would say so.
Boris looked around frantically to find the source of the voice.
Who said that? Who's there?
Over here.
Boris looked to find a glowing bug floating in front of his face. Upon a closer look, Boris found that he was not talking to a bug, but a fairy.
A fairy?
The little fairy nodded.
Yes, I am. My name is Losnaya Veya. I heard you crying and...
I wasn't crying.
The fairy glared at Boris as Boris looked around, trying not to make eye contact.
Right, well, I heard you. I heard you and thought you could use some help.
Not to offend, but what can you do to help me, little fairy?
I could tell you.
The fairy smiled, deviously.
But I think it would be better if I show you.
The fairy led Boris through the dark forest. Losnaya looked back at Boris, who looked around in fear.
Are you scared?
Boris was taken aback by the question.
What? Me? Afraid? Never.
Losnaya smiled, knowing full well the dwarf was scared.
Good. Because we're going into the most dangerous part of the forest.
Boris did his best to hold his composure. He was doing a bad job of it.
That's not a problem. No fear here.
The fairy's smile broadened.
Good.
The fairy flew on ahead. The fairy led Boris to a tree.
This tree houses the redemption from your father.
Boris looked into the hole in the tree where he found several books.
Books? How are books going to help me?
The fairy rolled its eyes.
It's what's in the books, Silly.
Boris did a lot of reading and blacksmithing and enduring his father's abuse. I regret having his son. Until he read the last book.
Finished.
He was ready for his revenge. Maxim walked into the forge to see his son sitting in a dark corner. Boris stared at his father darkly. Why are you not working, boy?
I am done.
Are you now? Maxim looked around. I see no horseshoes, no axes, no armor. What exactly are you done with? Boris stood up, glaring at his father.
No.
Boris's hands glowed with an orange light.
You.
Maxim backed away from his son in horror. Boris, your hands. What is this?
Your demise.
Boris shot jets of flame from his hands. Burned Maxim alive. No! Ah! Boris met back up with the fairy.
The deed is done.
Boris nodded with a sinister smile on his face.
Yes. And with this power, I shall conquer the lands.
The fairy smiled a more sinister smile.
Yes.
About that. Boris watched in horror as the fairy started to change. The fairy's butterfly wings exploded into large bat-like wings. Their hands became red, and their nails became black talons. And their face contorted into a toothy maw. Once the change was finished, Boris found himself staring at an imp.
What are you? What is this?
The imp, laughed. You foolish mortal. You're nothing special. It's so easy for you to sell your souls for such trivialities. Boris backed away in horror.
Please don't kill me.
I don't want to kill you. Boris looked hopeful.
Really?
The imp's face grew into a large, sinister smile. No, I have much worse planned for you. Boris stared at the imp in confusion and terror.
What?
The imp waved its hand, firing a blast of red energy. That hit Boris, which changed his skin to bright red. He looked at himself in horror.
What did you do to me?
The imp disappeared in a puff of smoke. Boris dropped to his knees and wailed over his misfortune.
No!
Mikhail tucked young Yuri into his blanket.
And since he could not get his revenge on the imp, he took his rage out on anyone who crossed his path.
Yuri looked up at his father curiously.
Well, how come no one has tried to talk to him?
Mikhail smiled down at his son.
Oh, Yuri.
Mikhail gave his son a loving pat on the head.
Do you know why the Hell Dwarf mourns?
Yuri shook his head.
No, Papa.
Since the Hell Dwarf couldn't get his revenge on the imp, it filled him with endless anguish and rage. So those who hear his moan should take heed. For if he finds you, he will take his revenge on you.
Yuri shrugged.
He sounded more hurt than angry.
Mikhail shook his head.
Oh, my boy. You have a lot to learn about life.
Mikhail tossed his son's hair. Yuri was still curious, and a little offended, but figured his father was done talking about it. So he just smiled and said,
Good night, Papa.
I thought that was a very short story, but enjoyable. I was glad to add it to my...
It's not the full story.
I'm sorry?
Comrade, you're missing a lot of the story.
Oh. Would you care to enlighten me?
Well, someone needs to be setting you straight. Yuri laid in bed, thinking about the Hell Dwarf.
I need to find out more.
Galina was in the kitchen making breakfast. Galina brought in a plate for her son.
I've made eggs, your fave.
Galina came into Yuri's room with horrifying sight. Yuri was missing. Galina was filled with fear.
Oh my god, I hope he's okay.
Galina's fear turned to anger.
Once I find him, I'm tanning his hide.
Yuri had sneaked out his window. He took with him a lens on a stick that his father had gotten him from a gnome. This lens made it seem that things got bigger and made Yuri able to study them better. He was in the woods with his, I believe they call it a magnifying glass, staring at a bit of grass.
Oh, come on, there must be some clues.
Yuri was about to lose hope until he found something.
That was big. I found a footprint.
Upon finding the first footprint, he found another, and another, and another.
Didn't think Hell Dwarf would leave footprint. Interesting.
Yuri was excited to find the trail of footprints until they ended at the start.
Darn it! Dead end.
Yuri looked around.
I would say he's metaphysical entity. Perhaps he floats. But why would something that floats make footprints? He must have crossed the stream some other way.
Yuri continued his investigation. He used his magnifying glass to look toward something across the stream. He smiled as he found another clue.
Taubsig, another clue.
Yuri spotted a bit of something red on a tree across the stream.
I need a closer look.
Yuri investigated the stream.
Something tells me the creature doesn't float. So, how did it cross the stream?
Yuri found a few small stepping stones in the stream.
Aha!
Yuri balanced on one stepping stone, and he was struggling. Yuri was a bit nervous, but he was too close to solving the mystery. He had one more stone before he got to the other end of the stream.
Come on, Yuri. You can do this.
Yuri leaped from the stone. He flew through the air with a big rock of fear in his stomach. He saw the stepping fear in his stomach. He saw the stepping stone getting closer and closer. His foot touched down on the stone. He started to slip. The rush of adrenaline surged through Yuri. He, just barely, righted himself on the rock.
Sayori, no big deal.
Yuri continued his pursuit of the Hell Dwarf, only getting a little wet from the stream. He saw a few trees with a bit of red on them. At first, he thought they were blood, but upon closer inspection, he found it was some type of dye. Why would some demonic entity leave behind dye? Yuri's excitement grew. He was going to find the creature. Yuri's investigation brought him to a small cottage in the woods. He stared at it in awe.
Is this the creature's home?
As if to answer the young dwarf, a moan echoed through the woods from inside the cottage. Yuri shrugged.
Take that as a yes.
Most children would run from such a disembodied moan from hell. But Yuri wasn't most children. He needed a closer look at the cottage. Yuri sneaked his way towards a window in the cottage. He peered in to see the Hell Dwarf, who was moaning. Yuri was in so much awe that he didn't think about his volume.
Oh my!
The Hell Dwarf turned to look at Yuri.
Huh?
Yuri quickly ducked his head down. Yuri sat on the ground in silence.
Maybe he didn't see.
Yuri slowly stood up and looked through the window again, but the Hell Dwarf was missing.
Can I help you?
Yuri turned around to find himself facing the Hell Dwarf.
Whoa!
Yuri found himself inside the cottage, staring across the table at the Hell Dwarf. The Hell Dwarf stared back at Yuri, as if to examine him. Then he broke the silence by saying,
Tea?
Yuri nodded, nervously.
Yes, please.
The Hell Dwarf poured Yuri some tea, with a deep sigh.
I'm guessing you'll know the story.
Yuri shrugged.
I heard a story.
The Hell Dwarf scoffed.
You are a clever boy.
Yuri smiled.
You are a rare breed, young one. I'm guessing you wish to hear a real story?
I like to look into things.
Yuri shrugged again.
I have time.
All right. I like you. I can tell you. When I was a child, my father was a tailor that specialized in gank fabrics. Me being far too curious boy, got into a lot of trouble. One day, my curiosity changed everything. My father had met a strange man.
Sir, I cannot be selling you cloth unless you have gold. How about a trade here, dear? What? Trade? What do you have for trade?
The stranger gave my father a sinister smile.
I got this special red dye here, dear. What?
My father stroked his beard as he thought.
Interesting.
I had been watching this trade from the back of father's shop. I should have been suspicious, but instead I was curious. My father kept all the dyes in the back in vats. I was investigating the new red dye the stranger had given us when I fell into it. My father walked in.
Boris, are you... Boris!
To find me drowning in the dye. My father had helped me out before I could drown. But the dye had infected me. It made my skin the red you see now. My father tried to scrub it off me, but to no avail. My father and I tried to have a normal life. But my father kept me in the back of his shop where I helped him dye clothes until the pain started. It would come and go. But it kept getting worse. My father took me to the local doctor, but he didn't know what to do.
I don't know what to do.
We went to a cleric, but he didn't know what to do either.
I don't know what to do.
My pain grew worse, and with it my moans of pain. not appreciate my moans and pain. They asked my father to ask me to leave. So my father and I went into the woods, and we built me this cabin.
Boris held his head in forlorn.
And this is where I've lived since my father's passing.
Yori stared at Boris in wide-eyed amazement.
Wow, that's interesting. Wait, what about the fairy demon thing?
Boris scratched his head as he thought.
You know, I don't know how that got into the story.
Boris smiled at Yori.
It's nice to get the story straight with someone.
Yori nodded.
I can't wait to tell everyone.
Boris cringed.
No, actually, about that.
Yori was taken aback.
You don't want me to tell?
I've just enjoyed my solitude so long. I'm fine with others stink away. I don't wish to harm anyone, but I am happy with the distance they keep.
What would you like me to tell them?
Boris rubbed his chin as he thought.
Mikhail
searched through the forest for
Yori! Yori!
Mikhail was getting worried until...
Oh, there!
Mikhail saw Yori running towards him.
I'm so glad you're safe.
Yori ran into his father's arms. Father and son hugged for a while.
You're grounded.
This new person told me that Yori had spread a different tale. I asked how they knew. They merely smiled and walked away. I thought about following him, her, them, but decided against it. What's life without a bit of mystery? I found myself in the beautiful city of La Marche de la Butte, one of the biggest cities in Frankzenbeans, the country of elves. The elves were of a high pedigree, which is a nice way to say they were very snooty. I marveled at the city's beauty. Every stone and plank of wood was placed with a purpose. There was a lot of pride taken in the creation of the city. It filled my heart with joy and pain, for I was still destitute. I didn't have a coin to my name. I certainly would not get a deal from any of the expensive shops here. I found a seat at a local cafe. The server asked me if I wanted anything. She was a young elf. At least she looked young. So long lived, it's hard to tell. I told her solemnly I merely wanted a place to sit. She smiled at me and walked away. I sat there and wondered where I would get my next meal, where I would find a roof over my head, and most importantly, where would I get my next tale. The server managed to sneak me a few pastries and some water. I implored her that I have no means to pay for these items. She assured me I would pay differently. I was curious what she meant. The server and I talked all the way back to her home, where she would later commune with me. I would like to say I am not one to kiss and tell, but forgive me, I've done very little kissing in my life. I asked if she wanted to be mentioned in my project, and she declined. I will respect her wishes. Anyway, after our union, she told me the story of her great-aunt and her interesting love story.
It was many centuries ago, not terribly long for elves. A young woman by the name of Dandra lived in the lap of luxury. She wanted for nothing. Servants would bring her what she wished, even before she said it. Her room had the softest bed, pillows, and blankets. Her brushes were made of gold, pearls, and gems. Suitors from all over the kingdom pined for mere moments with her. She could have whatever she wanted. Yet, she felt empty. It was a big day, at least to everyone else, at Dendra's manor, where her father, Duke Francois Ingenieux, lived. It was Dance des Prétendantes, where suitors from all over Frankzenbeans would come to dance and participate in contests to win the hand of the fair maiden Dandra. Her father had 2 of these dances before to find a suitable suitor, but for his daughter, no one impressed Dandra. All the best elves in the land weren't the best for her. Her father was sure this dance would be different. Dandra was skeptical. The dance started off as normal, mundane to Dandra, as young lords and ladies danced, while Dandra sat on the throne next to her father. Duke Francois smiled, forcing as much as he could. He glared over at his daughter, who didn't look amused at all.
Having fun, my lovely.
Dandra glared back at her father.
Not particularly.
Dandra sighed and forced a smile that hurt her emotionally and physically. After the dancing, it was time for the contest. Dandra had to force her smile even more. The first contest was cane fencing. The two young lords presented themselves to Duke Francois with their canes, like fencing swords. One lord addressed the Duke and his daughter.
I am Lord Jar of House Bree. I'm here to contest for the heart of Lady Dendra.
Duke Francois gave the young elf lord a nod. The other elf lord addressed the Duke and his daughter.
I am Lord Kettery of House Vermeer. I am here to contest for the heart of Lady Dendra.
Duke Francois gave the other elf lord a nod. The two lords faced each other and brandished their blades. Duke Francois raised his hand into the air.
Ready?
Brought it down.
Duel.
The two lords began dueling. As the two lords dueled, Dandra watched in disinterest until she realized no one was watching her. She made her escape. The lords dueled for several minutes, which felt like several hours, until Lord Coutari disarmed Lord Char, sending his blade to hit the floor. Lord Coutari brought the tip of the blade to Lord Char's throat.
Concede.
Lord Char hangs his head in defeat and shame.
Concede.
The two lords faced Duke Francois and bowed. Lord Coutari crossed his blade over his chest. The Duke applauded.
Good show, good show.
The Duke looked to his daughter.
Wasn't that?
He was shocked that Dendra was gone. In the manor's garden was a large tree, where Dendra would climb and play as a little girl. It's a pastime she continued. It had always made her feel free. She hung upside down from a branch, laughing with glee, until she found herself staring face to face with her father, who looked furious. Then her laugh of joy became one of fear. Duke Francois angrily shoved clothes into baggage. As Dendra protested,
Father, please don't.
You've embarrassed me for the last time.
I'm sorry, Father. I promise I'll choose.
The Duke stopped packing for a moment and glared at Dendra with his arms crossed over his chest.
All right, name's the man you want to marry.
What?
There were several lords in attendance. Which one did you pick?
Lord,
Yeah, you're growing to your ends.
The Duke went back to his anger packing, while Dendra protested.
Father, please, I can't.
In futility. A carriage drove down a forest path, surrounded by armored guards riding horses around it. Dendra sat in her carriage, staring out the window. She hated being sent to her aunt. Her aunt was the head of a farm outside the city. And Anne would always put Dendra to work, tending to the animals and picking vegetables. It was supposed to teach her discipline, though it didn't seem to work, since she was still a spoiled princess. The carriage ride was slow, but she didn't mind. She was not in a hurry to do manual labor. The carriage continued down the road until a crossbow bolt flew through the air, striking the carriage driver in the chest, killing him. The sudden attack spooked the horses. As the guards unsheathed their swords,
We are under attack.
Dendra was surprised when the carriage came to an abrupt halt.
What's going?
She heard the commotion outside. Dendra stepped out of the carriage.
What's happened?
Onto a grisly scene. All her guards and their horses were lying on the ground with their bodies riddled with crossbow bolts, and their blood mixing with the dirt, making a gruesome mud. Dendra began to cry.
Oh my God! No!
Dendra went to run, but slammed into a large orc. A sinister smile came over the orc's face.
Hey, girlie.
Dendra went to run from the orc, but her way was blocked by more orcs. They surrounded her and came closer. Dendra went to run, but slammed into a large orc.
Please, don't hurt me. My father is rich. He'll give you whatever you want.
Sorry, lady.
The orc unsheathed his sword.
But I got a job to do.
Dendra backed away while shaking her head in horror and disbelief.
No!
The orc bandit lifted his sword over his head as he prepared to bring it down when something shook the ground. The orcs looked around in confusion and fear. As their leader also looked around in confusion and fear.
What was that?
As if to answer the orc bandit leader, a giant wooden foot descended on one of the orcs, crushing the life out of him. The orc bandit looked up in horror.
What is that?
A giant wooden fist hit another orc, sending him flying. The remaining orcs ran off. The orc bandit leader yelled to his fellow orc bandits.
Get back here, you cowards.
Giant tree man stepped in front of the orc bandit leader, who looked up into the face of the tree man, shaking in fear. The tree man growled at the puny orc. The orc bandit leader dropped his sword and ran off. The tree man turned around to face Dendra. He walked towards her.
Thank you.
The tree man just stared down at Dendra for a moment before he said,
Oh, you work hard.
Dendra was too afraid to speak, so she merely nodded yes. The tree man merely nodded back.
Good.
The tree man started walking away.
What's your name?
The tree man shouted back.
Aubrey.
The tree man started walking away. Dendra looked around at her dead guards.
Now how do I get home?
Meanwhile, at a manor back in the city, a discussion was about to take place. Lord Shah was pouring himself a glass of wine in his study, when someone else entered.
You're starting early.
Lord Shah glared at his guest.
Let me be. I don't need judgment, especially from you.
Lord Thiere merely laughed.
Someone is a sore loser.
Leave me be.
Lord Thiere came up from behind Lord Shah and wrapped his arms around his waist.
Don't be so angry. Everything is going according to plan.
I guess.
Oh, sweetheart, how can I make you feel better?
Lord Shah turned and smiled at his friend.
Once we have access to the Duke's fortune, I'll feel better.
Lord Couturier kissed Lord Shah hard on the mouth.
Will that tide you over?
It will suffice. For now.
Dondra made her way back down the trail her carriage was driving. And since she didn't know how to drive a carriage, she had to walk back in the dark.
How could this get worse?
Dondra heard a thunderclap overhead. Followed by torrential rain pouring on earth. Lord Shah and Lord Couturier were about to get intimate when they heard a knock at the door. Dondra continued her trek to the rain. Dondra was sure she was safe, only to die on this trail when Arbor had returned.
I did not anticipate the rain. Would you like a ride home?
Dondra looked up at Arbor with a big smile.
Oh, that would be lovely.
Lord Shah opened the door to see the orc bandit leader standing in the rain, looking scared.
We got a problem.
Arbor taxied Dondra along in his branch through the pouring rain. Arbor addressed his passenger.
Are you alright with this?
Although Dondra clung to wet old wood, she never felt more warmth inside. She smiled.
Never been better.
What?
Dondra realized what she said and was embarrassed.
I said this is fine. Everything is fine.
The two lords and the orc bandit leader argued.
You had one job.
One job.
The orc bandit leader shrugged.
No one said there'd be a giant tree monster.
The two lords looked at each other in shock.
Tree monster?
Arbor brought Dondra to the edge of the city.
Here you are, miss.
Dondra looked up at her wooden hero in awe.
Take care.
Arbor turned and started to walk away. Dondra started to panic. She couldn't understand it herself, but she didn't want Arbor to leave.
Wait!
Arbor stopped in his tracks and turned around.
Yes.
How do I repay you?
Arbor shook his head.
Never speak of me.
Dondra looked at Arbor in confusion.
What?
The two lords continued to argue with the orc bandit leader.
Go back and kill the tree monster.
Sure. Once I get paid.
The two lords looked at each other and sighed. Lord Shah looked back to the bandit leader with a sneer.
Follow me.
Lord Shah opened a small treasure chest and took out a few coins. As the orc bandit leader watched, Lord Couturier looked around.
So, where is the rest of your band?
That's a good question. Those cowards ran off to God knows where.
Too bad they are not as brave as you.
The orc bandit leader sneered at Lord Couturier. Lord Shah stopped counting counts.
Actually, I won't pay you in gold. We have steel.
The last thing the orc bandit leader saw was Lord Shah's smiling face. And the last thing he heard was Lord Shah say,
We have steel.
Before falling to the floor, dead. Lord Shah wiped his blade with a handkerchief while chuckling.
Always wanted to do that.
Lord Shah looked toward Lord Couturier, who glared at him.
You're cleaning this up.
Dendra and Arbre stared at each other.
Can't I tell my father about your great deed? You must want a reward.
No, I will bring humanoids into my forest.
What's wrong with that?
Arbre shook his head.
Humanoids build cities.
Aren't our cities beautiful?
Arbre looked at the city.
The forest is more beautiful.
Arbre went to walk away again, but Dendra stopped him. Again.
Wait!
Arbre turned around, looking a bit annoyed.
What?
Dendra became a bit sheepish.
Would it be all right if I saw you again?
Arbre was about to yell at the annoying elf girl, but once he saw her bleeding eyes, his wound heart softened. Arbre smiled.
That would be fine.
Dendra's face lit up with joy. Arbre grew stern.
But bring no one else with you.
Dendra nodded furiously.
No, of course.
Arbre nodded and continued into the forest. Dendra watched after him in awe. Dendra ran home with a feeling she had never felt before. Her bare, wet feet hurt, slamming onto the cobblestone road, but she barely felt it. As far as she was concerned, she was flying. Duke Francois slept soundly in his lavish bed. Until a pounding at his bedroom door woke him up.
What is going on?
Jacques answered his door in shock as a soaked Dendra stands before him with a nervous smile on her face.
Hello, father.
Dendra sat in front of the fireplace, trying to dry off.
So all the gods were killed?
I'm afraid so. I almost didn't, but...
Dendra realized what she was about to say.
But what?
Dendra scrambled to think of something.
But then I did.
Dendra smiled nervously.
Okay. I'm just glad you're safe.
The Duke sent a group of guards to investigate where Dendra was attacked. Lord Shah and Lord Thiere volunteered for the expedition. The two lords and the guards examined the scene of the bandit attack. One of the guards looked toward the lord.
Messieurs, I don't think our men killed these orcs.
The two lords looked at each other and then at the guard.
I believe you're mistaken. These orcs were clearly killed by the guards.
The guard looked at the orc corpses again and then back to Lord Shah.
It really doesn't look like that.
Lord Thiere glared at the guard.
That is what happened.
The guard stepped back in fear and surprise.
All right.
The two lords and guards rode back on their horses. The two lords brought up the rear so they could talk in private.
Our gods did not kill these orcs.
Lord Thiere rolled his eyes.
I know that.
Lord Shah shook his head in confusion.
Then why did...
Clearly Dendra did not talk about the dream.
And?
Lord Thiere rolled his eyes.
Thank goodness you're cute. It's called leverage.
Leverage?
Lord Thiere smiled at Lord Shah.
We may get that fortune yet.
Dendra was lying in her bed, thinking about Arbre. She couldn't get him out of her mind. She had to see him again. One night, Dendra climbed out of her window. Lord Shah gave his friend a confused look. Lord Thiere just happened to be out, and Luckily for him, and unluckily for Dandra, he saw the young Duchess sneaking out of the city. He smiled to himself.
What are you doing, mademoiselle?
Dandra skipped through the forest, humming a tune to herself. Lord Guthrie stalked after the Duchess as quietly as possible. Dandra wasn't sure how long she traveled, but she was sure that the cold was getting to her. And the forest noises were getting to her as well.
I hope I find you soon, Arbre.
Dandra continued her quest. After several minutes of traveling, Dandra's legs grew tired, so she sat under a nearby tree.
Where are you, Arbre?
Lord Guthrie watched Dandra from some bushes. Thoughts raced through his head. Diabolical thoughts. She was alone. He could just take her out. Duke Francois had no other children. He would have to give his fortune to someone. He would just need some convincing until he heard the giant footsteps.
Huh?
Dandra picked her head up in excitement as she heard the giant steps. She smiled.
Arbre!
Lord Guthrie listened to the giant steps.
Arbre?
Nervously, Dandra jumped to her feet in excitement as Arbre walked around a corner and saw Dandra. He was surprised. Dandra nodded furiously with a big smile on her face.
Yes, it's me.
Arbre shook his head in confusion.
What are you doing here?
Dandra was hurt by the question.
I'm here to see you. You said that I could.
Arbre looked away, a bit embarrassed. Confusion.
I thought you would get bored and forget about me.
How could I forget about you? You saved my life. You're the only thing on my mind.
Two mossy spots on the side of Arbre's mouth seemed to glow a brighter green, a tree's way of blushing.
I don't know what to say.
Dandra ran up to the tree man and hugged him.
You don't have to say anything.
Arbre smiled as the little elf hugged his leg. He put a hand on her back as gently as possible. Lord Guthrie watched the beautiful scene, but not in awe. It inspired the gears in his head to move.
I can't wait to tell Cher about this.
And so it went. Dandra would sneak out of her house, and Lord Guthrie, sometimes Lord Char, would follow her. Dandra would gallivant with her in the forest. And Dandra would return home. Until Dandra skipped through the forest. When something stopped her,
Lady Dendra?
Dandra stopped in her tracks, filled with fear, until Lord Guthrie stepped out of some bushes.
What brings you to the forest?
Dandra's mind raced as she thought of what to tell the Lord.
I...
Lord Guthrie feigned a look of concern.
Does your father know that you are here?
Lord Couturier continued his mock inquisition.
Have we taken a sudden interest in trees?
Tendre still struggled to find words. A sly smile came over Lord Couturier's lips.
Or is it one particular tree?
Tendre suddenly caught on to Lord Couturier's game. Her fear became anger.
What do you want?
Oh, good. Brass tacks. My terms are simple. You promise me your hand in marriage.
What? I would never. I don't love you.
Lord Couturier broke into laughter.
Oh, silly girl. Marriage isn't about love, it is about property.
Lord Charles was watching Tendre and Lord Couturier from the bushes. His love had brought him there to make sure the deal went as expected. He kept a hand at the hilt of his sword just in case the deal didn't go their way. Arbre made his way through the forest, his wooden heart aflutter at his anticipation of Tendre's visit. Lord Couturier was still laughing. The Lord composed himself and went back to being serious.
Now, let's make a deal.
Tendre shook her head.
I would never marry you. Besides, it wouldn't help you anyway.
Lord Couturier looked intrigued.
Oh?
Tendre nodded with a fierce look on her face.
Oui, you would have to get rid of my father too.
Tendre was horrified by what she had just said and the devious smile on Lord Couturier's face.
Is that right?
Arbre continued his trek through the forest as he checked on the trees until he heard a scream. Tendre had her back against a tree as Lord Couturier came towards her with his sword drawn.
Please, don't hurt me. I'll marry you. Just don't hurt me.
Oh, don't worry, mademoiselle. I will take good care of you and your father's graves.
Lord Charles snickered to himself as he watched Lord Couturier prepare to dispatch the Duchess.
Take care.
Lord Charles' attention was arrested by another sound.
Huh?
Lord Charles turned around to see a giant wooden foot coming towards him. He screamed in horror and futility. Lord Couturier was about to stab the Duchess until he heard something hit the ground behind him. He turned to see Lord Charles' mangled body on the ground, his eyes filled with tears.
Cha! My love!
Tendre looked at Lord Couturier in surprise.
Love?
Lord Couturier was not paying Tendre any mind. He was transfixed on the giant tree man standing before him. Lord Couturier backed away in fear. Tendre sneered as he walked past them.
And never come back!
As Lord Couturier backed into some bushes, he took a final look at the bag of flesh and bones that used to be his lover. He brought his look back to Arbre. Rage had replaced fear.
I will have my revenge, tree man. Mark my words.
With that last ominous promise, Lord Couturier turned and ran into the woods. Arbre went to chase after the elf dwarf. When Tendre stepped in front of him.
Wait! Don't!
Arbre stopped in his tracks and looked down at Tendre.
He's not worth it!
Tendre shook her head.
He has no power here. This is your domain.
Tendre hugged Arbre's leg.
Please, my love, push him out of your mind and let us enjoy each other's company.
Arbre looked to where Lord Thiere ran and back to Dondre. He did this several times until he surrendered to Dondre's arms. Lord Thiere ran through the streets of the city, tears streaming down his face. He would have revenge on the three bastards. He would turn the forest to ash. A dark idea came to him. He knew it would help him. He just had to spin the tale correctly. Abra walked through the forest, with Dondre hiding in his branches. Like they had done many nights before. Little did they know that this would be the last time. 2 guards stood at the gates of the Duke's manor.
It's a quiet night.
The other guard shrugged.
Where's the snow night? Really? Of course. Then I get paid for standing around.
The first guard rolled his eyes. As he refocused on his post, he saw something coming towards him. As the steam got closer, the guard realized it was Lord Thiere running towards them.
I need to talk to the Duke.
Duke Francois sat in his throne room, deeply annoyed at his slumber being disturbed. He glared down at Lord Thiere, thinking of how he could punish the young elf lord for the interruption.
You said better be important.
Lord Thiere looked up at Duke Francois with fear and sadness in his eyes.
It's about Dendra. She's in danger.
Duke Francois jumped to his feet.
What?
Duke Francois, Lord Thiere, and several soldiers stalked through the forest, holding torches and a vendetta. Duke Francois shot a glare at Lord Thiere.
What did the Intrigue monster do to my daughter?
Lord Thiere gave his Duke a somber look.
I'm sorry, my Duke. I must confess my cowardice. I ran away once the monster slew my
Lord Thiere fought himself before he accidentally confessed something. He composed himself.
Slew my Lord Chow. I don't know what he's done with Dendra.
It was at that moment the Duke heard a sound that chilled him to the core.
Dendra!
The Duke shook his head in horror as he listened to his daughter's torment.
My gods, what is it doing to her?
Dondre screamed. In delight, as she swung on Albra's branches. The Duke went to run out to his daughter.
I'm coming.
But Lord Thiere stopped him.
Wait, my Duke.
The Duke shot Lord Thiere a look of rage.
What's my way, Lord Kyoto?
Please, sir. This forest is vast. Even with such a large quarry, it will be days, even years before you find your daughter.
What should I do?
A malicious smile crossed Lord Thiere's face.
We'll make it come to us.
Duke Francois gave the Lord a curious look. Arbor continued to stride through the forest, with Dondre still in his branches. He suddenly stopped and sniffed the air. Dondre looked down curiously.
What's wrong, my love?
Arbor turned and started running. Lord Thiere and the guards ran through the forest, lighting trees on fire. Lord Thiere laughed to himself.
This is for you, my love.
The Duke lit a tree on fire, stood up, and shouted into the night sky.
Bring my daughter, monster. This whole forest will be killed.
Arbor ran towards where the smoke was coming from. As the tree man got closer, stood up, and shouted into the night sky. Arbor ran towards where the smoke was coming from. As the tree man got closer, Dondre could hear her father shouting.
Do you hear me, monster?
face.
Dondra was filled with horror. She didn't think about her father coming. Whatever he was doing, she had to put a stop to it. The elven guard saw Thiere and took Dondra like whisper. The guard was about to try to not fight. Until he heard something.
Huh?
The last down from the giant coming towards the group rolled their feet, and the guard stopped their action to look up at the three monsters, charge at them. Duke Francois stood and glared at the monster in front.
That was my daughter, monster.
Outreach toward the monster. Abel was shocked to find that all was gone. Dondra felt as fast as she couldn't bear to face her father. She couldn't bear to face the consequences of her actions. Abel growled as he spattered and crushed Elgin as his face continued to burn around his face. Lord Thiere thought as the three monsters crossed down. The Lord charged and put the moment with a battle cry. With his torch fought, Lord Thiere hit the three monsters with his torch.
Take these, monster!
Abel cried out. Dondra was still running until she heard Abel's scream. Dondra stopped in her tracks.
What have I done?
Dondra began running back. As Abel crossed the hills, Dondra made his way back. Storm clouds began to gather. Abel cries out in agony as the flames took his body. Lord Thiere laughed, hate and triumph.
That's right! Die, you wooden bastard!
I looked down at the elven lord, brought his pistol. Lord Thiere, seeing that this was the end, looked solemn.
We'll be together. Sure.
Dondra was still running. She was so transfixed on getting back, she barely felt the raindrops hit her. Abra had killed the last guy and was now facing the Duke. The Duke faced three monsters in the distance.
Give me back my daughter.
Abra shook his head. The Duke gritted his teeth in rage and shouted to them.
Liar.
The Duke raised the torch into the air and we said back the time. The Duke charged towards Abra. Dondra ran through the heavy rain, not letting it slow down. Dondra made her way to the battle, but she hung her face. The ground was littered with dead elf bodies, including their father and one large wounded body that was obviously out. She shook her head in dismay.
No! Please! God!
Dondra ran over to her father, ignoring his face. Just as well, the rain was extinguishing his face, and knelt back.
Father! I am so sorry!
The police fell on dead ears as your father stared towards the sky with a look of fear on his face. He died not knowing of tears welling on his eyes. The torrent of tears were about to cease, just like the rain pelting from above, until she heard a deep
Don't fly over to you with another's body. She climbs through the branches so that she could lay on her face and look in his eyes. She caressed his good features lovingly.
My love, are you all right? Please be all right.
Arbor's weak eyes rolled themselves toward Arbor. The tears started to fall from Rongo's eyes.
I know. I'm sorry.
Abstrained sentences were few. He couldn't think of anything to say but Rongo shook her head.
Yes, but I'm back. Please, don't leave me.
The light started to leave Arbor's eyes and they rolled away from Rongo and stared. And breathed his last breath as the light faded from him. Rongo shook her head while disbelief confounded all around.
No, Arbre. Please don't leave me. I'm sorry.
As the rain pounded at them. The sun rose over the forest. At least, what was left of it. Domher was still lying at Apple's feet, exhausted from getting no sleep in the night. Domher walked silently to the burnt wet evenings. She looked around somewhere, not knowing what to do. She couldn't go home, not without mother. She couldn't live with her love, who was no longer living. Thoughts swirled in her head until she saw something. Sandra saw a small sap rolling from the dirt betwixt two burnt stumps. She dropped to her knees, with tears in her eyes. However, they were tears of joy that like still softly grow in this great land.
I am so happy to see you, little one.
Sandra looked back at Albert.
I could never bear you children. Our natures would have never allowed it. But I will make it my life's mission to bring this forest back to life, my love. The new trees will be our children.
Sandra turned her attention back to the sun.
I will start with you, Petit Arbre.
Which meant little tree. Sandra spent centuries of her long, healthy life taking care of the plants and animals of the forest. Sandra, now in her 500 years, scanned the land that was once birch stubble, but was now filled with gnomish. She smiled to herself. She looked at the biggest tree amongst the new trees.
Your brothers are getting so big, Petit Arbre.
Sandra looked up to the sky.
I hope you're proud, my love.
My elven companion told me about a group of druids known as the Children of Dendra that took care of the forest. It was Dendra's legacy. After a few more days of entertainment, she loaded me up with some food and sent me on my way. I was very remiss to do, but my project was too important. I would have to come back and visit her. Once I had left my elven friend's home, I had made my way through the elven city when... Oi! I heard a strange noise. I should have minded my own business. Apparently, in my investigation, I found two hooded figures who were working on the wall of the city. I inquired to them what they were doing. My heart was filled with terror as they looked at me. revealed that they were Dratino spies. They were not happy with my interference, so they threw me into a trunk and... what it sounds like. I've put my trunk into a wagon. They're taking me somewhere, and I'm scared to reach my final destination. I discovered that our destination was an underground shack by an underground river. My captors threw me in a closet. I can hear them talking, but not what they're saying. They are probably wondering what to do with me. I fear once they find out that I'm not worth much to anyone, they might... I'd rather not think about it. I need to find an escape. Wait!
Who the hell are you?
Release your captive.
All are dead bodies, senor.
What the? A drowned gentleman in dark clothes, a hat, a cape, and a mask that barely covered his face, had saved me from my closet prison. He said his name was El Perito, which I was sure wasn't his real name. He told me that he had heard about bandits kidnapping elven nobles and ransoming them. I asked him how he knew this, but he said he had his sources, and wouldn't say more than that. That did sound ominous, but one does not question their savior. I told him about my mission, and with little surprise to me, he had a story to tell me about himself. A quick note, El Perito wished to keep his identity a secret, so I will be changing names for his protection and the protection of those involved in the story.
My name is Santiago Zoliandio. I was a drow noble of some repute. I was born into wealth and was loved by the women of my district. I loved them back. Little did I know it would be my undoing. I was on a night out on the town, talking with a few senoritas at a local cantina. That's how I got my new giant spider. He is a purebred. As usual, they swooned over me.
You are so funny, Santiago.
You are so handsome, Santiago.
Marry me, Santiago.
Ladies. Please, there is plenty of me to go at. The music started, and everyone started to dance, including her. Round, she was a vision. She wore a red dress that was frilly, but still clung to her beautiful frame. It flowed like flame around her. Her hair was a long silver, like moonlight flowing behind her. She flashed her eyes at me, which were like shining opals, seeing me, seeing through me. I was entranced by her. I had to know her. My female companions were not too pleased,
Santiago, darling,
Sweetie,
honey.
but I barely heard them as I found myself moving towards the red vision of loveliness. I don't remember walking up to the woman, but I found myself dancing with her, with one of my arms around her waist, my hand holding her hand. Her other arm was around my neck. We spun to a drowned waltz as we stared into each other's eyes. She started the conversation.
You seem to be enjoying yourself, Signor Zolonio.
Hearing my name coming from those beautiful lips made me smile. I am senorita. Till realization came to... Wait. How did you know my name? The woman merely smiled playfully and seductively.
What woman doesn't know of Santiago Zolonio, noble of the House of Arna?
I was impressed. Usually I was the one who could see a woman's history all over her face. It was intriguing to be the one on the receiving end. As much as I studied her, I couldn't get a read on her. She had to be some kind of enchantress to confuse me so. You seem to know me. May I have your name? The woman seemed to think on it for some time. She smiled at me.
Oh, no. We are not there yet.
Oh? She looked deep into my eyes with thin-lipped smile that arose a fiery passion inside me. She whispered to me, her hot breath hitting my ear and exciting me more.
Let's get out of here.
I was surprised by the request. Aren't you enjoying yourself here? She shrugged.
I am, but...
She suddenly pressed her lips to my neck, sending a fresh surge of ecstasy through my
body. She stared into my eyes.
I just think that we can enjoy ourselves someplace else. You know, somewhere private.
The woman could get no resistance from me. The woman and I walked through the city. Well, she walked, while I felt like I floated. We had found our way into an alley, and we were getting passionate. And her lips were like the finest wine I ever tasted. She stopped and smiled at me.
I have a surprise for you.
Is that right? She nodded with a demure smile on her face.
Yes. Now close your eyes.
What?
Close your eyes, silly.
What am I getting?
I told you it is a surprise. Now close your eyes.
Fine. I closed my eyes and waited for my surprise. All right, I'm ready. I heard a low growl. Sweetheart, opened my eyes to see my surprise. Instead of a woman, I found myself facing a half-man, half-wolf creature staring at me. I screamed as the creature tore into me. Hot pain racked my body as it claws tore at my skin. And agony shot through as its teeth buried itself in my shoulder. I felt my lifeblood and organs spill out of me as I passed into unconsciousness. I woke to find myself in the alley. No trace of the woman. I limped through the city, trying to hold my insides. Well, inside. As I limped my way home, I discovered something in my hand. At least, the lack of something. I was under the impression that my guts were spitting out. When I looked down, I saw nothing. There wasn't even blood. At first, I thought I had a strange dream. But if that was the case, why did I wake up in an alley and not in my bedroom? Why did I feel as if my body had kept the pain from the attack? I guess I may have had too much to drink. I resolved to think that I drank too much. That would have been a comfort, but alas, I was brought to the reality of the situation when I saw the scars on my body. When I returned home, my parents lamented.
Where have you been?
She ran and hugged me tight.
We're sorry.
I hugged my madre back in happiness and confusion. I'm happy to see you, madre, but why are you so distraught? My madre looked up at me with eyes filled with tears and confusion.
You've been gone for days, my little niño.
Days? Madre took me to see my padre.
Raphael! Santiago is home.
My padre's eyes lit up as they saw me.
My little Santi.
He ran and embraced me. Oof! It hurt, but I welcomed my padre's hug. He let me go and slapped me in the back of the head. Ow!
Don't you ever worry us like that again.
I rubbed my sore head and gave my padre a pleading look. Sorry, Papa. My padre and I had a strange relationship. After a celebratory feast, I grew tired and went straight to my room. I tossed and turned in my bed, struggling for sleep when... Santiago! I heard her. I jumped out of my bed to see her at my window. You! I jumped from my bed, charged towards her, and grabbed her by her shoulders. I shook her in rage. What did you do to me? The woman merely smiled at me.
I didn't finish the job.
What? She had instantly changed into the wolf monster again. I was horrified. No! As the monster lunged at me. Ah! I awoke in a panic. That was the last time I would see the woman. I never wanted to suffer an attack like that ever again, so I practiced with the sword. When I was not practicing my swordplay, I would be in the library reading up on creatures, where I'd learned that the woman was a werewolf, so that no other strange creatures could surprise me again. During my trainings and studying, a lot of weird things happened in between. I still had trouble sleeping, as I tossed and turned, thinking I was having terrible dreams. I would have vague memories of my dreams. As I would stalk through the farm district, where I would attack prey. I'd
wake up, covered in blood and feathers, which made it awkward when I would pass by farmers.
Something keeps eating my chicken. I don't know what to do.
I knew I had lycanthropy, but we drow live underground, so there was no full moon to trigger my transformation. For a long time I could not figure out how or why I was changing, until one night. I was walking through the city, trying to clear my mind after a feeding, when I heard something.
Please. We are poor.
Please don't hurt us.
Quick. Use the door.
I had to help, so I ran towards the noise. I ran to where I heard the noise, to find two bandits harassing a farmer and his wife on the road.
The bandits hurt you.
Innocent people being attacked and raging. I called up the bandits. Stop right there! The bandits turned their attention to me.
Huh?
As I drew my blade. Leave these people alone. The two bandits stared at me, then looked at each other, then broke into laughter.
You have to do something. Yeah, mind your business.
I ignored them and brandished my sword. The farmer and his wife ran off as the bandits were distracted. One of the bandits tried to stop me,
Hey, no one said you could leave.
but they were too far away.
You cost us money, bastardo.
I fought the bandits as best I could. Despite my training, I had little experience to it. So I was quickly disarmed, and my arm was slashed. Pain brought me to the ground. I held my wounded arm as I felt the blood pour from my head. I looked up to see the bandits standing over me.
It's quite the errors. Any last words?
I was filled with rage as the bandits looked down and mocked me. The bandits stopped laughing and looked at me in horror.
What? What's going on?
My skin started to stretch. My clothes tore. My mouth grew into a snout with small, razor-sharp teeth. While the bandits watched me in shock, once my transformation was complete, their shock turned to laughter. I noticed that I was standing much smaller than the bandits in my new form. I'd finally realized what I was. I knew I was a lycanthrope, but I now realized I was a were-chihuahua. It was a rare condition for drow, and luckily, for me, I had it. My rage only grew as the bandits continued to laugh. In my rage, I went to shout at them, but since I was a dog man, I could only bark. However, my bark seemed to bother the bandits, as they grabbed their ears and winced in pain. My barking seemed to drive them mad, and they started to turn on each other.
This is all your fault. My fault? It was your idea.
They started fighting each other. Until they dispatched one another. Fell to the ground dead. I thought it was an easy meal. At least my weird chihuahua brain thought that, so. The end of my savior's story didn't sit well with my stomach, but he did say that he had practiced controlling his beast. Now he uses his talents and situation to defend the innocent drow of his land. El Perito was kind enough to lead me to a river. He provided me a boat and supplies so that I may have a safe trip to the land of Tagoda. I bid him well and sailed to my next adventure.